Chapter 23:10. Avicii Hell. Wu Dao's true body was covered in pitch-black vines as he fell into the abyss. In the blink of an eye, he was pulled before Emperor Lord Bo Sun. The golden Sanskrit that was condensed around Wu Dao's true body was completely devoured by the black vines. However, he did not give up. He propped up his 9 fate wheels and channeled his heaven and earth furnace to defend against Emperor Lord Bo Sun's attacks with all his might. "What sort of nonsense are you cultivating?" Emperor Lord Bo Sun's fiend form was sinister and his gaze was dark as he sneered, "How weak! You can't even withstand a single blow." The moment he said that, the pitch-black vines that coiled around Wu Dao's true body suddenly tightened and exerted strength. Crack, crack, crack. The purple light of the 9 fate wheels flickered and let out creaking sounds as though they could collapse at any moment. "Shatter!" Emperor Lord Bo Sun hollered softly. Boom! The 9 fate wheels that were condensed with Wu Dao's will and techniques collapsed instantly, turning into countless fragments that fell into Wu Dao's furnace. Ever since the 9 fate wheels were condensed, they had always been indestructible and could even take on countless divine weapons head-on. But now, they could not defend against the suppression of absolute strength at all. Many pitch-black vines landed on the burning Wu Dao's furnace. Flames raged and the pitch-black vines sizzled as thick smoke billowed. Interesting. When Emperor Lord Bo Sun saw that the bloodline phenomenon of Wu Dao's true body could refine his fiend qi, he could not help but grin and reveal a row of white teeth. However, in the blink of an eye, Emperor Lord Bo Sun retracted his smile and changed the topic. "However, you're still too weak." The fiend qi on Wu Dao's true body turned richer and his strength increased exponentially. Crack, crack, crack. Cracks appeared on Wu Dao's furnace one after another. It did not last long before it exploded. Exclamation point. Wu Dao's true body spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale. Ever since his true body was born, he had never tasted defeat. With an invincible stance, he swept through all strong enemies in the world and suppressed everything. When had he ever suffered such a serious injury? The difference in strength between the two was simply too great. Even though Wu Dao's original body was an anomaly, the Wu Dao that he created couldn't make up for the gap between them. Without the 9 fate wheels and the smelter of heaven and earth, the demonic qi gushed into Wu Dao's body instantly. Like a storm, the demonic qi swept through his 8 extraordinary meridians, limbs, bones, and internal organs. Not long after, Wu Dao's bloodline, bones, and organs were all dyed black. Even the sea of consciousness of Wu Dao's true body had turned into a dark abyss. Only a purple primordial spirit was emitting a weak glow. Its body was still burning with purple flames. "Why do you know the Prajna Nirvana Sutra?" Emperor Bo Sun asked. Wu Dao's main body didn't say a word, his expression cold. "Tell me the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and submit to me. I can spare your life and even bestow upon you a fortuitous encounter." Emperor Bo Sun said again. Wu Dao's main body remained silent. Wu Dao was fearless. How could he submit to others? If at this moment, Wu Dao's main body submitted to Emperor Bo Sun in order to survive, his Dao would completely collapse. He would no longer have a chance to continue. If Wu Dao was cut off, what was the point of his main body existing? "I won't give you a third chance." Emperor Bo Sun's lips curled into a sinister smile. What kind of status did he have? As an emperor expert, he had already given Wu Dao's main body 2 chances. This was already a great favor. Emperor Bo Sun's eyes shimmered with a strange light. 2 black beams of light entered the eyes of Wu Dao's main body. Soul-searching art. Emperor Bo Sun didn't bother with Wu Dao's main body. Instead, he directly used the soul-searching art. A black beam of light appeared in Wu Dao's main body's sea of consciousness and wrapped around the primordial spirit of Wu Dao's main body. However, just as the black beam wrapped around it, it was burned by the flames on Wu Dao's primordial spirit. It turned into wisps of green smoke and disappeared. When Wu Dao's main body first condensed his martial soul, it was a ball of flame. This primordial spirit was actually condensed from the martial soul fire. If one wanted to search the soul of Wu Dao's main body, the martial soul fire would have to be extinguished. However, if the martial soul fire was extinguished, it would mean the death of Wu Dao's main body. Emperor Bo Sun wouldn't be able to obtain any memories. Oh! Emperor Bo Sun frowned slightly. With his strength, it was naturally easy for him to extinguish the martial soul fire. However, he wouldn't be able to obtain anything if he did that. After pondering for a while, Emperor Bo Sun's heart stirred. He laughed sinisterly. It doesn't matter if I can't search your soul. I have a way to make you completely sink into the demonic Tao and submit to me. Emperor Bo Sun's figure seemed to vanish as he transformed into a wisp of black smoke that circled around Wu Dao's main body. Suddenly, a series of decadent sounds sounded in the ears of Wu Dao's main body. Many demonesses appeared before his eyes, twisting their bodies in a bewitching manner. Emperor Bo Sun wanted to use his heart of the demonic Tao to completely assimilate Wu Dao's main body. Emperor Bo Sun released his fiend technique with all his might, which had a much greater impact than the Kata saber. However, Wu Dao's main body closed his eyes and guarded his Tao heart. No matter what scenes or sounds appeared in his mind, he was unmoved. There was no self, no human, no living beings, and no longevity. Pink skeletons, white skin, bones, and flesh, everything was empty. If one could see all forms, they would see Gautama. No matter how Emperor Bo Sun cast his techniques, it was difficult for him to affect Wu Dao's will. This scene was similar to when the ancient fiend Bo Sun descended to interfere, tempt, and obstruct the Buddha's cultivation when the Buddha comprehended the Tao under the Bodhi tree. The current Emperor Bo Sun was not inferior to the ancient fiend Bo Sun of the past. However, the cultivation realm of Wu Dao's main body was far inferior to the Buddha of the past. However, be it the Tao hearts of Wu Dao's main body or the Buddha, they were as firm as rocks and unshakable. After the trial of the Tao heart staircase, it was almost impossible for Emperor Bo Sun to demonize the Tao heart of Wu Dao's main body. Give up. A moment later, Wu Dao's main body suddenly spoke. Emperor Bo Sun's figure appeared once more and a hint of anger flashed through the depths of his eyes. He had been busy for half a day and even felt mentally exhausted. However, this person could still speak as though he was not affected at all. He had just been born and had yet to return to the heavenly realm to unleash his divine powers. Yet, he was repeatedly thwarted by this weak cultivator. Emperor Bo Sun was infuriated. You let Heavenly Wolf go on purpose. Wu Dao's main body suddenly said. At that time, Wu Dao's main body and Heavenly Wolf were at the edge of the passageway's exit. Given Emperor Bo Sun's strength, there was no way Heavenly Wolf could escape if he wanted to keep it. The only possibility was that Emperor Bo Sun let Heavenly Wolf go on purpose. You could tell? Emperor Bo Sun grinned. You're so smart that I can't bear to kill you. Although Emperor Bo Sun was smiling, the coldness in his eyes turned colder. However, you can't be demonized and you're unwilling to submit to me. That makes me very unhappy. Emperor Bo Sun said faintly, I know of a punishment that's 1,000 times, no, 10,000 times more terrifying than killing you. It will make you sink into eternal torment and pain. Wu Dao's main body's heart sank. Right then, Emperor Bo Sun's voice sounded. The Avicii hell is below. I'll send you on your way. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 23:11. Wu Dao's true body suddenly felt a huge force pushing him down. His 9 fate wheels were shattered and the furnace of heaven and earth had collapsed. His body had been infiltrated by the black demonic qi. His bones, organs, and blood vessels were all black. He could not withstand it at all. Moreover, the door of Avicii was still emitting a powerful devouring power. The black vortex spun continuously and the black qi fluctuated violently. There seemed to be ghosts wailing behind the door. Countless ferocious and terrifying faces appeared, as if they were going to tear Su Zimo apart. Countless pale arms seemed to reach out from the black door, grabbing Wu Dao's true body and pulling him into the Avicii hell. The Mask of Mara. Emperor Bo Sun suddenly thought of something. He wanted to go down and take the Mask of Mara back from Wu Dao's true body. But just as he moved, he suddenly stopped. He looked at the pitch-black vortex below, and deep fear flashed in the depths of his eyes. If he came to the door of Avicii, Even he was not confident that he could break free. That slight hesitation caused Wu Dao's true body to be swallowed by the door of Avicii and disappear completely. Emperor Bo Sun quickly calmed himself down. Losing the mask of Mara was not a big deal to him. He did not plan to keep the mask of Mara and the Kata saber with him this time. That was why he gave the Kata saber to Yen Beichen. Emperor Bo Sun looked up slightly, as if he could see the scene outside through the layers of space. He murmured, "Pure land of bliss, I'm coming." Shura Temple's teleportation array flashed with light. Not long after, more than 10 figures appeared. They were all monks. The 3 in the lead had powerful auras. They were Buddhist arhats, which meant they were true self-experts. The monks following behind them were all high-level heavenly immortals as well. "Greetings, senior brothers of Putua Temple." The monks of Shura Temple hurried forward and bowed. These monks were from the Putua Temple in the southern viewing state of the Pure Land of Bliss. With Mount Meru as the center, the Pure Lands had 9 mountains and 8 seas. Around Mount Meru, there were 4 great continents. They were the southern viewing continent in the south, the Dongxing Divine Continent in the east, the Aparagodania Continent in the west, and the North Continent in the north. The Taiwei Mountain was located in the south of the Pure Land. Therefore, the Nanzhan Section Continent was the closest to the Taiwei Mountain. In the southern viewing section continent, there were 5 great Buddhist temples, and they were all heaven-level sects. Putua Temple was one of them. The establishment of Shura Temple here to watch over Taiwei Mountain was also the result of the joint decision of the 5 great Buddhist temples. What happened? Xianbo, one of the 3 arhats of Putua Temple, asked in a deep voice. A Shura Temple elder stepped forward and narrated the story of Wu Dao's original body, Sky Wolf's entry into the Avicii Hell, and Sky Wolf's escape. He entered the Avicii Hell and came out alive? A look of disbelief appeared on Arhat Xianbo's face as he frowned. How is this possible? The other monks of Putua Temple also shook their heads. Since the endless era, who knew how many years had passed since then, there were always some cultivators and living beings who were willing to take the risk to explore the secrets of the Avicii Hell. But from ancient times until now, no living being had ever come out alive from the Avicii Hell. Not to mention that the moon-swallowing sky wolf that came out was only a level 1 heaven immortal. It's absolutely true. The Shura Temple elder hurriedly said, "All the monks of our temple saw it with their own eyes. It can't be wrong. Even if you saw it with your own eyes, it might not be true." Another Putua Temple arhat shook his head and said, "There are many illusionary techniques in Tao that can deceive the heavens and the sea and deceive people. If you want to let you see some illusions, as long as a true one expert makes a move, it can be done." The monks of Shura Temple were a little confused. What the Putua Temple arhat said was not without reason. It was too unbelievable that a living being could leave the Avicii Hell alive. Even they did not dare to believe it in the depths of their hearts. Another Shura Temple elder said, "But someone just fell into the Avicii Hell and then this happened. Isn't it too much of a coincidence?" Arhat Xianbo pondered for a while and said, "Since we're here, let's go take a look." With that, Arhat Xianbo stood up and walked towards the Taiwei Mountain first. The dozen monks of Putua Temple and the monks of Shura Temple also followed. Before the monks reached the Taiwei Mountain, they had just crossed half the strait between the 2 mountains when a violent fluctuation came from the sky above the Taiwei Mountain. The monks' expressions froze and they hurriedly stopped. The Taiwei Mountain in front of them was the Avicii Hell. Any abnormal movement would make them tremble in fear. Boom! Suddenly, a violent sound came from the Taiwei Mountain. The entire Taiwei Mountain was shaking slightly. Ha! A burst of wild laughter came from the Taiwei Mountain. It was filled with excitement. The laughter reverberated through the Taiwei Mountain endlessly and was filled with a strange demonic power. Immediately after, a pitch-black fiend chi burst forth from the Taiwei Mountain and surged into the clouds, covering the entire sky above the monks. Initially, the sky was a clear blue. In the blink of an eye, dark clouds covered the sky and fiend chi covered the sky. Pissed. The monks were shocked and gasped. The laughter came from the depths of the Taiwei Mountain, from the Avicii Hell. In other words, someone had truly survived the Avicii Hell. "Hurry, Hurry and inform the Heavenly King experts of the Pure Land that a fiend has appeared in the Avicii Hell. Arhat Shenbo was the first to react. He slapped his storage bag and crushed a jade talisman. The other two Arhats also quickly crushed a jade talisman in their storage bag. Ha! Right then, an even wilder laughter sounded. It was incomparably ear-piercing and was like tiny worms that burrowed into the 7 orifices of the monks. In midair, the monks had pained expressions as they hugged their heads, trying to isolate themselves from the laughter. However, these actions were all in vain. Even the 3 Arhats of Puto Monastery were unable to withstand a single blow from that laughter. The monks did not realize that their 7 orifices were already bleeding non-stop. The monks of Shura Monastery also walked out of the monastery. In an instant, the sky changed drastically as sand and stones flew everywhere. Black tornadoes swept through the entire temple. Countless ancient buildings were destroyed by the black tornadoes and collapsed, turning into ruins. The terrifying laughter sounded, and many of the monks of Shura Monastery could not withstand it at all. They fell to the ground one after another and died. It was just a laugh, but who knew how many monks had lost their lives? Arhat Shenbo and the other monks could no longer hold on in midair. They tried their best to open their eyes wide. Their eyes were bloodshot and their vision was blurry with blood. Through the blood, they could see an incomparably tall demonic figure rising slowly from the Taiwei mountain in front of them. It stood at the peak of the Taiwei mountain as though it was indomitable. Its black hair danced wildly and its demonic eyes were pitch black as it overlooked all living beings. Chapter 23:12. The demonic shadow suddenly opened its mouth and sucked in large mouthfuls of air. Arhat Shenbo and the other monks suddenly felt the life force in their bodies slipping away rapidly. In just a few breaths, all the monks in the air were sucked dry of their blood essence. They turned into withered skeletons and fell from the sky into the ocean between the 2 mountains. On the peak of Taiwei Mountain, Bo Sun's face was flushed with blood. His aura became even gloomier. "How dare you, demon? How dare you be so arrogant in my Pure Land?" A majestic voice sounded like the roar of a lion. It came from behind the dark clouds that covered the sky. Immediately after, a blazing beam of light tore through the dark clouds, scattering down a sacred golden light. A monk descended along with the beam of light, his entire body bathed in golden light. He held a Vajra scepter in his hand and glared at Emperor Bo Sun angrily. The Heavenly King of Putuo Temple had arrived. A Heavenly King was a Grotto Heaven realm expert, equivalent to an immortal king in the 9 heavens immortal realm. Dong! A crisp sound suddenly came from heaven and earth. It was neither light nor heavy, but it seemed to be able to pierce people's hearts. The Heavenly King of Great Zen Temple, one of the 5 great Buddhist temples of the southern viewing continent, appeared with a wooden fish in his hand. The sound just now was the sound of knocking on the wooden fish. It was deafening. Amitba! Another Sanskrit voice came and resounded through heaven and earth. The dark sky was torn apart by this Sanskrit voice, revealing a huge crack. Rays of light sprinkled down on the mortal realm. Another Heavenly King appeared. His hands were empty, but his eyes were like torches. He wore a golden kasaya and had a powerful aura. This Heavenly King came from Mok Temple, one of the 5 great Buddhist temples. After the Mok Temple's Heavenly King appeared, 2 more Heavenly Kings appeared. One of them was stout. His ears were so big that his earlobes almost fell to his shoulders. He had a big belly and held a string of prayer beads in his hand. This Heavenly King came from Amitba Temple. The other Heavenly Immortal held a Buddhist staff. He looked to be the youngest, only middle-aged. He came from Many Knowledge Temple. The Heavenly Kings of the 5 great Buddhist temples of the southern viewing continent appeared at the same time. They were ready to join forces to suppress the demon that escaped from Avicii Hell. Cracks appeared in the dark sky. Demonic chi surged, but it seemed that it could no longer stop the golden light. The Pure Land was about to regain its light. "Demon, surrender now." The great Zen temple's Heavenly King knocked on the wooden fish. Together with the sound domain secret technique he cultivated, he let out a loud bellow, exuding divine might. Hee! Emperor Bo Sun scanned the 5 heavenly kings and murmured, "How dare a bunch of juniors flaunt their prowess in front of me?" It had been more than 1,000,000 years since the Battle of Taiwei Mountain. The lifespan of a Grotto Heaven realm expert was about 1,000,000 years. In other words, these Buddhist heavenly kings had never seen Emperor Bo Sun before. Furthermore, Bo Sun always wore the Mo Luo mask back then, so not many people had seen his true appearance. Bo Sun didn't answer. All he did was open his mouth and constantly breathe in heaven-earth yuan qi. He had just walked out of the Avicii hell, and his combat strength had yet to recover to its peak. I can't let him continue to cultivate and absorb yuan qi. The heavenly king of Putuo Temple reacted immediately and shouted, "Attack!" Boom, 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 boom. Almost at the same time, a loud bang sounded behind the 5 heavenly kings. The void collapsed at a speed visible to the naked eye, revealing different scenes. A gigantic cave seemed to have appeared in the collapsed void behind the heavenly king of Putuo Temple. Golden light shone from within, and a male lion covered in golden fur was roaring into the heavens. It was like a bloodline phenomenon. However, the gigantic cave behind the heavenly king of Putuo Temple emitted energy fluctuations that far exceeded the power of a phenomenon. Endless Tao and Dharma undulated in the cave. Those Tao arts transformed into thousands of rays of light, thousands of auspicious colors, and countless runes that breathed in massive amounts of heaven-earth yuan qi through the cave. Another scene appeared behind the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery. Through the cave formed by the collapse of the void, one could vaguely see a vast ocean within. Countless white fishes swam happily in it. The white fishes leaped out of the surface of the sea and landed in the seawater with a crisp thud. It was identical to the sound of the wooden fish in the hands of the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery. The cave also breathed in massive amounts of heaven-earth yuan qi, condensing different Tao arts. Different phenomenons appeared behind the other 3 heavenly kings of the Buddhist monasteries as well. That was the power of a grotto heaven. A grotto heaven was a chamber created within one's body that connected to the heavens and the 3 realms. It could absorb heaven-earth yuan qi wildly from the heavens to nourish one's body. The formation of a grotto heaven originated from a Tao fruit. Therefore, every cultivator cultivated different Tao arts, and the grotto heaven formed would be different as well. After forming a grotto heaven, cultivators could give up on absorbing cultivation resources such as essence spirit stones and essence spirit liquid. Instead, they could use the grotto heaven to plunder heaven-earth yuan qi at an even more terrifying speed. A grotto heaven nurtured the Tao arts of a cultivator. When a grotto heaven realm expert summoned his grotto heaven in battle, his combat strength would increase exponentially. Emperor Lord Bo Sun had just come out of the Avicii hell and was still tainted with the rich Avicii fiend qi. As such, the 5 heavenly kings could not detect his cultivation realm. The 5 heavenly kings did not dare to be careless and summoned their grotto heavens, prepared to attack together. Fufufu, Emperor Lord Bo Sun laughed. Initially, his laughter was deep. Towards the end, it became ear-piercing and resounding. Ha! Amidst Emperor Lord Bo Sun's laughter, he stood on the Taiwei mountain with his arms spread and endless sinister fiend qi emanated from his body. Instantly, the skies darkened. The entire sky seemed to be covered by a gigantic black cloth and could not see the sun. Even the faint light emitted by the 5 heavenly kings' grotto heavens appeared insignificant against the shroud of darkness. Welcome to my world, the Parinirvana heaven. Emperor Lord Bo Sun grinned and spread his arms. His face was menacing and sinister as he stood on the peak of the mountain, resembling the only god that ruled over this world. What did you say? The heavenly kings of Great Zen Monastery shuddered with fear. Parinirvana heaven. Buddha Monastery's heavenly king's voice trembled and his face was pale. The other 4 heavenly kings were pale as well. That's right. Emperor Lord Bo Sun's voice sounded once more. The Parinirvana heaven is also what you guys call the Great Fiend heaven. Pissed. The 5 heavenly kings were shocked and their hearts seemed to have stopped beating at that moment. The Great Fiend Heaven was a world created by Emperor Lord Bo Sun 1,000,000 years ago. The 5 of them were trapped in the Great Fiend Heaven. Emperor Lord Bo Sun was still alive. The 5 heavenly kings felt a bone-chilling chill surge into their hearts. They felt their limbs turn cold and the grotto heavens behind them trembled continuously as though they could collapse at any moment. Emperor Lord Bo Sun, the great fiend heaven. In the pure land of Buddhism, this was simply a taboo word. Chapter 23:13. Even if someone mentioned it, they would change their expression. They were afraid that their heart of Buddhism would be disturbed by the demonic thoughts. And now, the 5 heavenly kings were facing this terrifying devil that was like a Buddhist taboo. The battle back then was too tragic. Both the 9 heavens immortal realm and the pure lands suffered heavy losses. More than half of the 20-odd imperial emperors died on the spot. Moreover, the imperial emperors knew that even if they joined forces, it would be difficult to kill Bo Sun, who was both a Buddha and a demon. That was why the imperial emperors came up with such a plan to set up the battlefield here and banish Bo Sun to the Avicii hell, never to be reincarnated. But who would have thought that Bo Sun was still alive and had walked out of the Avicii hell after paying such a heavy price? The world had changed. With Bo Sun's return, the entire heaven realm would probably change. Could the legend be true? The Putuo Temple's heavenly king thought. Back then, the ancient demon Bo Sun fought with the Buddha. Although he was defeated and died, there was a rumor in the Buddhist sect that the ancient demon would appear in troubled times. The Buddhist monks all believed that Emperor Bo Sun was actually the incarnation of the ancient devil in this world. Later, when Bo Sun was banished to the Avicii hell, the monks all thought that the ancient demon had died. But who would have thought that Bo Sun would return in this life? The Putuo Temple, Great Zen Temple, Mok Temple, Amitabha Temple, Palilor Temple, 5 great Buddhist temples, and the 5 heavenly kings were all top experts in the heaven realm. But the current situation was out of their control. Bo Sun, the great Zen temple's heavenly king, tried his best to calm himself down and said loudly, "Even if you come back, the Buddhist sect's imperial emperors can still suppress you. If you use the great devil sky, the Buddhist sect's imperial emperors will arrive soon." The Putuo Temple's heavenly king clenched his fists and said, "You just left the Avicii hell and haven't recovered to your peak. You can't fight the Buddhist sect's imperial emperors." "You're right." Bo Sun grinned and sighed. "But it's enough to kill you." Bo Sun's eyes lit up as he activated the great devil sky. Demonic chi surged between heaven and earth, and a vast power that was unstoppable. In this world, Bo Sun was the only god, and no one could go against him. Rumble. With a heaven-shaking explosion, the heavenly grotto heavens behind the 5 heavenly kings were unable to withstand the power of the great devil sky. 5 heavenly kings spat blood sky. In the great devil sky, even if the 5 of them wanted to escape, they had no chance at all. Their lives were in the hands of Emperor Bo Sun. Imperial Lord Bo Sun took a deep breath. Fiendish aura swirled around Putuo Monastery's heavenly king's body like vines that pierced into his body. Bo, the heavenly king, heaven, the heavens, heavenly of the heavenly king of the heavenly emperor, king, he, the king of the heavenly king. He was dead. A grotto heaven realm expert who was almost at the peak of the upper world died before the 4 of them just like that. A heavenly king had a lifespan of 1,000,000 years. However, life and death could be decided with a single thought. Bo Sun smacked his lips and revealed a look of enjoyment. He swept his gaze across the remaining 4 heavenly kings and murmured softly, "Who's next?" The 4 heavenly kings shuddered. A fear of death grew in them, growing stronger until it was difficult to suppress. Normally speaking, at the level of a heavenly king, one's Tao heart would be firm and unshakable. However, under the shroud of the great devil sky, the wills and Tao hearts of the 4 heavenly kings began to waver. "You." Bo Sun's gaze paused on the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery for a moment as he asked. The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery shuddered and nearly had a mental breakdown. "Or you." Bo Sun shifted his gaze to the heavenly king of Amitabha Monastery. In his agitation, the heavenly king of Amitabha Monastery exerted strength in his fingers and crushed one of the prayer beads in his hands. Emperor Bo Sun grinned and took another deep breath. Fiend Qi spread and coiled around the heavenly king of Multiple Rumors Monastery. In more than 10 breaths, the heavenly king of Multiple Rumors Monastery lost all his vitality and turned into a skeleton. His eyes were empty and he died with grievances. Even as a heavenly king of the Buddhist monasteries, in the eyes of Bo Sun, his life was like grass that could be slaughtered at will. Bo Sun let out a long sigh, licked his lips, and said, "Not bad. Absorbing your life essence is much faster than cultivating normally. Please spare my life, Imperial Lord." The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery lost his mind and his Tao heart collapsed. Unable to hold on any longer, he knelt on the ground with a thud and begged for mercy. "It wasn't easy for me to cultivate and I don't want to die just like that. As long as you're willing to let me off, I'm willing to follow you and submit to you." "Oh." Emperor Bo Sun raised his eyebrows and nodded with a satisfied expression, "You're quite sensible and tactful." Delighted, the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery kowtowed hurriedly. "Thank you for sparing my life, Imperial Lord." "Thank you, fool." The heavenly king of Moke Monastery hollered. The reason why he used such methods is to instill fear in us and make us submit. How can you submit to him? Our Taos are different. The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery grit his teeth. The Tao I seek is for longevity. So what if I cultivate the Fiend Tao after today? The Imperial Lord and the Fiend Buddha coexist together. Which one of you is a match for him? You. Before the heavenly king of Moke Monastery could finish, he was shrouded by pitch-black Fiend Qi. Before long, his life essence was sucked away and he died. Apart from the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery, the heavenly king of Amitabha Monastery was the only one left of the 5 heavenly kings. Heis. The heavenly king of Amitabha Monastery sighed gently and assumed a lotus position, pressing his palms together. "Bo Sun, it's your turn." Sneering coldly, Bo Sun opened his mouth without hesitation and sucked. In the blink of an eye, the heavenly king of Amitabha Monastery was reduced to a skeleton and died. "Imperial Lord, let's leave the Buddhist holy lands and head to the Fiend domain as soon as possible." The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery said hurriedly, "With such a huge commotion here and the deaths of 4 heavenly kings, there's a high chance that an Imperial Lord of the Buddhist monasteries will appear." Bo Sun looked at the heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery with a strange expression and said with a fake smile, "I didn't say that I was going to let you live." "You." The heavenly king of Great Zen Monastery widened his eyes. Right then, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness descended from the skies above the Taiwei mountain. Instantly, a Buddhist light shone and pierced through the pitch-black Great Fiend sky like sharp swords. "Oh, it's finally here." Bo Sun raised his head slightly and murmured softly with a strange look in his eyes. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 23:14. Above the firmaments, a figure descended and looked down at the spreading darkness with a solemn expression. His heart skipped a beat as he exclaimed, "Great Devil Sky!" Emperor Lord Bo Sun. The Buddhist emperor immediately recognized the sinister world that blotted out the sky. A look of disbelief flashed across his eyes. How was that possible? Emperor Lord Bo Sun had been banished to the Avicii hell for many years. How could the Great Devil Sky reappear in the world? At that moment, the Great Devil Sky suddenly rose against the tide. Endless darkness swept towards the figure above the firmaments, wanting to devour him as well. The Buddhist emperor did not dare to be careless. He pressed his palms together and chanted a Dharma name. Behind him, a blinding golden light suddenly bloomed as a paradise that resembled a pure land appeared. One side was blinding while the other side was dark and sinister. 2 completely different worlds, 2 opposing forces, directly collided with each other, causing an earth-shattering explosion. The earth quaked as the world turned dark. Seawater soared into the sky, forming a massive wave that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall that struck the 2 Taiwei mountains. The void between heaven and earth was filled with cracks as sinister winds blew within. One could even see the stars outside through the cracks. The collision of the 2 great imperial emperors shattered this side of the world. Emperor Lord Bo-sun was extremely infamous and was practically a taboo in the Buddhist sect's paradise. Even the Buddhist emperor did not dare to attack rashly. He remained unmoving and took a defensive stance to stall for time. As time passed, the commotion here would definitely alarm the other sovereign emperors of the Buddhist sections. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. The dark world below struck once more but still failed to shake the Buddhist emperor's world. After a while, the darkness between heaven and earth gradually receded. The Buddhist emperor waited for a long time but did not see Emperor Lord Bo-sun's counterattack. The great devil sky had also dissipated and the world regained its light. The Buddhist emperor's eyes were deep as he surveyed the surroundings. However, he did not find any traces of Emperor Lord Bo-sun. He only sensed a remnant aura of a spatial tunnel below. Emperor Lord Bo-sun had already left. This doesn't seem to match Emperor Lord Bo-sun's style of doing things. The Buddhist emperor frowned and remained silent. Suddenly, his heart stirred as though he sensed something. His gaze landed on a figure on the Taiwei mountain not far away. The great Zen temple's 6 Brahma kings. The Buddhist imperial emperor's figure flickered, and he instantly arrived at the 6 Brahma heavenly kings' divine weapon. After probing it with his divine sense, he heaved a sigh of relief. The 6 Brahma heavenly kings were thin and withered. A great deal of their life essence had been plundered and they looked dispirited, but at least they had managed to preserve their lives. On top of the Taiwei mountain, there were 4 other withered corpses. Although their flesh, blood, and life essence had been sucked dry, this Buddhist imperial emperor could still tell that these 4 were heavenly kings from Putuo Temple, Amitabha Temple, Mok Temple, and Duoeng Temple. They were all dead. Compared to the other 4, the 6 Brahma heavenly kings could be considered lucky. Thank you for saving me, Monarch Treasure Light. 6 Brahma heavenly kings gasped for breath as he said with lingering fear, if the imperial emperor had come a step later, I wouldn't have been able to escape death either. Is it Monarch Bo-sun? Emperor Treasure Light asked in a deep voice. It's him. 6 Brahma heavenly kings clenched his fists and said, not only did he not die, he even escaped from Avicii hell and started a massacre. When Emperor Treasure Light arrived, he had already sensed that many people had just died here. The Shura Temple on the Grand Taiwei Mountain had also been reduced to ruins. Almost all the monks inside had been wiped out. 6 Brahma Heavenly Lord continued, however, he has just escaped from Avicii hell and his combat strength hasn't recovered to its peak. As soon as he came out, he was frantically plundering Heaven-Earth Yuan Qi to nourish his body. No wonder. Emperor Treasure Light muttered softly. He was still puzzled as to why Monarch Bo-sun had left quietly after exchanging blows with him. It seemed like this was the reason. Monarch Bo-sun had been suppressed by Avicii hell for 1,000,000 years. Even if he had escaped now, his body must have suffered significant problems after such a long time. His combat strength had decreased sharply, which was why he chose to avoid the battle. Did you notice where he went? Emperor Treasure Light asked again. The infernal domain. 6 Brahma heavenly kings said. Emperor Treasure Light narrowed his eyes slightly and said, it seems like the infernal domain is going to stir up a storm of blood again. After pausing for a moment, Emperor Treasure Light said, return to Great Zen Temple to recuperate. The matter of Monarch Bo-sun escaping from Avicii hell involves a lot of people. Don't spread it for now. 6 Brahma lords agreed. Emperor Treasure Light tore through the air and disappeared. 6 Brahma lords slowly got up and glanced in the direction of Shura Temple. Then, he looked at Avicii hell under his feet and suddenly smiled. Then, he tore through the void and disappeared from the peak of Taiwei Mountain. The world seemed to have returned to peace. Only an old monk's voice sounded in a corner of Shura Temple that no one was paying attention to. Many people have died again. It's time to collect the corpses. Avicii hell. Wu Dao's true body knew that with his cultivation realm, he would not be able to survive in Avicii hell or minor hell. His only chance and hope was the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. This was the cultivation technique of Emperor Avicii back then, and Avicii hell was forged from Emperor Avicii's body. There might be some kind of strange connection between the two. Therefore, the moment Wu Dao's true body was swallowed by the Avicii gate, he began to chant the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. However, after entering the Avicii hell, Wu Dao's true body was stunned. His 5 senses and spiritual perception had all disappeared. He could not see anything, not even darkness. He could not distinguish between darkness and light. He could not feel the passage of time. His entire body seemed to be floating. There was nothing around him. It was empty, and he could not feel the existence of space. Around him, there was only an endless sense of loneliness. Wu Dao's true body chanted the Prajna Nirvana Sutra loudly and even used a sound domain mystic technique, but he could not hear his own voice. The surroundings were silent, and there was no other sound. Wu Dao's true body and Qinglian's true body had long lost contact. Long after he fell from Taiwei Mountain into Avicii hell, he had lost contact with Qinglian's true body. At this moment, Wu Dao's true body suddenly felt a burning sensation spreading from inside to outside. Ah! Wu Dao's true body could not hold it in and let out a painful cry. This was a flame that came from the Avicii hell. Not only did it burn the flesh of the body, it also burned the essence spirit of Wu Dao's true body. This flame was even more terrifying and domineering than the karmic fire. Most importantly, these flames contained a type of true intent of pain that was sufficient to cause one to go mad. Back then, in order to forge the Avicii hell, the Emperor Avicii gathered the painful wills of millions of living beings and fused them into his body to form this world. Anyone who entered the Avicii hell would have to endure the pain and torture of millions of living beings. There was no space, and no space for those who suffered. As long as one entered the Avicii hellfire would appear in their bodies and they would suffer eternal pain without any interruption. Book Residence Reading Website. Chapter 23:15. Wu Dao's true body had witnessed the scenes of the 16 minor hells personally. Be it the pain of digging out one's heart and lungs or removing the copper brand from one's brain, it was not even 1,000th of the pain of the Avicii hellfire. What sort of feeling was it when the extreme pain of millions of living beings gathered together? Wu Dao's true body could not withstand it either and wanted to cry out. The most terrifying thing was that in the Avicii hellfire, one had to endure the pain endlessly until one's lifespan was exhausted. In the Avicii hellfire, even if one could not withstand the pain, they could not commit suicide. What was even more frightening was that the hellfire would burn the essence spirit directly. The pain on the essence spirit was 100 or 1,000 times more intense than the pain on the body. Before long, Wu Dao's true body could not withstand the pain and even fainted. However, right after, he was tormented awake by an even more intense burning pain. Maintaining his consciousness, he endured the painful will of the Avicii hellfire once more. After a while, Wu Dao's true body fainted from the pain once more. However, he woke up before long and endured the pain over and over again. He was in eternal pain without a break. Wu Dao's true body finally experienced the terror of the Avicii hellfire. For any living being that entered the Avicii hellfire, death was a form of release. In fact, that thought even flashed through the mind of Wu Dao's true body for a moment. However, he threw those thoughts to the back of his mind and defended his Dao heart to the death. If not for the trial of the Dao heart staircase and the fact that he had not condensed level 10 to strengthen his heart as Wu Dao's true body would definitely not have been able to survive in the Avicii hellfire. Before long, his Dao heart would have collapsed. While Wu Dao's true body endured the pain, he tried his best to maintain his consciousness and composure. The pain was unbearable and unstoppable. It was a fact that he could not change and could only accept. He did not know how he could leave this place either. No matter where he went in the Avicii hellfire, the pain would accompany him at all times and the hellfire would never be extinguished. Wu Dao's true body had not given up yet. He thought of a bold idea. Since Wu Dao's furnace could refine all divine arts and nurture all scriptures, why couldn't he try to fuse this hellfire into his own body? Back in Tianhuang mainland, Wu Dao's true body had only managed to refine a wisp of tribulation fire through the heavenly tribulation after several tribulation transcendences. And now, Wu Dao's main body had decided to try refining the hellfire in his body. Wu Dao's main body had a huge advantage. His primordial spirit, which was also his martial soul, was a ball of flame. Therefore, Qin Li's nascent spirit and hellfire were of the same kind in terms of origin. Of course, his martial spirit fire was too weak. Wu Dao's true body tried to refine the hellfire for the first time. Just as his martial spirit's fire appeared, it was engulfed by the hellfire. His primordial spirit was once again subjected to endless torment. Wu Dao's true body continued to try. He could not sense the passage of time or the changes in his environment. He could only attempt to refine the hellfire continuously, even if it was just a wisp. During this period of time, Wu Dao's true body fainted countless times and failed countless times. He could no longer remember. It was almost as though it was a habit for him, a form of persistence. He would faint from the pain of refining the hellfire. Immediately after, he would wake up and refine it once more, and so on. After an unknown period of time, Wu Dao's true body finally conjured a weak wisp of flame after channeling his primordial spirit. It was identical to the hellfire in his body and had the same aura. Of course, his cultivation realm was too low and the hellfire he conjured was far less powerful than the flames in the Avicii hell. There was no way it could fight against it. Even so, Wu Dao's true body was excited and delighted. Although the additional wisp of hellfire could not help him escape the Avicii hell, it could allow him to refine Sutra's secret skills better. Over the years, Wu Dao's true body had collected many sutras and secret skills. During this period of time, he had also seen the Forbidden Sutra, the Nirvana Sutra, through Qinglian's true body. However, just relying on his martial soul fire, calamity fire, red lotus karmic fire, and dragon phoenix flames was not enough to refine the Forbidden Sutra and some obscure ancient texts. Therefore, Wu Dao's true body found it difficult to comprehend the essence of these ancient texts. But now, with the addition of a wisp of hellfire, the martial arts furnace had become even more powerful. Its smelting power had skyrocketed, and even the ancient and forbidden scriptures that he found difficult to understand before had all been smelted into it. During this period of refining hellfire, Wu Dao's true body had made another discovery. It could be considered a blessing in disguise. Originally, his body had been contaminated by Bo Sun's demonic aura. His bones, flesh, and organs had all been demonized. With his strength, he was completely unable to remove the demonic aura. However, in the Avicii hell, after being repeatedly burned by hellfire, the remaining demonic aura in his body had been completely burned away. Of course, there was no heaven-earth yuan qi in the Avicii hell. His injuries showed no signs of healing. The 9 fate wheels had been shattered into pieces by Bo Sun and floated in his body. Wu Dao's true body refined the ancient sutras while comprehending and deducing Wu Dao's techniques. Although he had fallen into the Avicii hell and was unable to leave, suffering endless pain, he still had the heart of Wu Dao. He did not give up on deducing Wu Dao's techniques and advanced on this great Dao with great difficulty. This was the meaning of Wu Dao's true body's existence. This was his Dao. In fact, thousands of techniques would inevitably converge to one Dao. For example, the immortal Dao, Buddhist Dao, and demonic Dao had different cultivation techniques, but their realms were similar. After going through the mystic, earth, and heavenly essence realms, they would fuse into one and enter the true self realm to condense a Dao fruit before being conferred the title of king at the Grotto Heaven realm. In other words, even if Wu Dao's true body condensed his fate wheel into a Dao fruit, it was possible. However, he did not want to give up just like that. Although they would inevitably converge to one Dao in the end, before that, he had to perfect Wu Dao as much as possible. After an unknown period of time, perhaps a few months or a few centuries, a spark of inspiration appeared in the mind of Wu Dao's true body. As time passed by and countless sutras were refined by Wu Dao's furnace, the spark of inspiration shone brighter. Wu Dao's true body was enlightened. In fact, the greatest difference between Wu Dao and the immortal Dao, demonic Dao and Buddhist Dao was already obvious when Wu Dao was created. The immortal Dao, demonic Dao and Buddhist Dao absorbed the spirit qi and essence qi of heaven and earth to cultivate and comprehend, borrowing the power of heaven and earth to fight. However, Wu Dao was originally created for cultivators without spirit roots. Every step of Wu Dao was to cultivate himself. After the heavenly essence realm, the immortal Dao, Buddhist Tao and demonic Tao would condense their lifetime of cultivation into a Tao fruit in their consciousness. Wu Dao's true body would attempt to imprint the Tao skills of the 9 fate wheels onto his bones to continue strengthening himself and eventually condense the true Wu Dao body. The immortal Tao, Buddhist Tao and demonic Tao would condense their Tao fruits while Wu Dao would forge his Tao body. The next realm after Wu Dao was the true martial realm. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 23:16. When Wu Dao's original body figured it out, he felt that Wu Dao's future was no longer hazy. Behind the heavy fog, rays of bright light shone through and shone into his heart. He didn't need to do anything. The 9 fragments of the fate wheels automatically turned into mysterious runes, condensing Wu Dao's will and Wu Dao's will. They flowed in his body and wrapped around every bone. The bones of the martial Tao body were immersed in these mysterious purple runes. After an unknown period of time, mysterious runes gradually appeared on the bones, as if they were engraved on them. At first, it was only a shallow layer. But as time went by, the runes on every bone became clearer, as if they had been deeply engraved and integrated with the bones. It was impossible to erase them. During this long process, the pain in the hell of Avicii was still tormenting Wu Dao's original body. He would still be tormented by the pain until he fainted. But every time he woke up, Wu Dao's original body would pull himself together and continue to engrave runes on his bones while enduring the endless pain, forging a Tao body. This was his Tao. No matter how much pain he had to endure, he had to continue walking. If the pain in the hell of Avicii was inflicted on others, they would have collapsed and their Tao heart would have collapsed, no matter what their cultivation was. And Wu Dao's original body was at the end of his rope in the hell of Avicii. Under the immense pain and suffering, he perfected Wu Dao and created the Tao of the next level. Wu Dao's original body couldn't feel the passage of time. There was no one around him and no sound. He was only forging and polishing his Tao body. Finally, at a certain moment, all the runes in the 9 fate wheels and all the will of Wu Dao's Tao had been engraved on the bones of Wu Dao's original body. At this moment, Wu Dao's original body felt that he had broken through a bottleneck, a barrier, and reached a new level. Wu Dao's Tao body had just been formed. Wu Dao himself had already stepped into the true martial realm. Generally speaking, when a cultivator of the immortal, demonic, or Buddhist path stepped into the realm of true self, a heavenly tribulation would descend. The 59 heavenly tribulation was the lowest and the 99 heavenly tribulation was the highest. Although Wu Dao had taken a different path and was completely different from the immortals, Buddhists, and fiends, Wu Dao's main body had also broken through a certain barrier. Under normal circumstances, it would also attract a heavenly tribulation. However, Wu Dao's main body waited for a long time, but did not sense any aura of the heavenly tribulation. There was only one possibility. The Avicii abyssal hell could even isolate the senses of the heavenly tribulation. Wu Dao's true body looked inside and saw that on his bones, every rune was flashing with a purple halo. On the surface of every bone, there were fine purple flames burning. These purple flames were constantly tempering his body, baptizing his bloodline, and burning away all the impurities in his bloodline. When his bloodline, body, and organs were all baptized by these purple flames, it meant that the true Wu Dao's Tao body had reached greater mastery. At that time, every inch of his flesh, every drop of blood, and even every strand of hair on his body would contain the terrifying will of Wu Dao's dermic formulation. He would be able to shake heaven and earth with a single move. This true Wu Dao's Tao body would be invincible and defeat all true self-experts. At this thought, Wu Dao's main body was originally excited, but he calmed down in an instant. So what if he was invincible in the true self realm? He was trapped in the Avicii abyssal hell and could not get out at all. Even a terrifying expert like Emperor Bo Sun, who could escape from the Avicii abyssal hell, would not dare to step into this place. Even if he could deduce Wu Dao's dermic formulation realm, even if he could deduce Wu Dao's next dermic formulation realm, so what? He could only stay here and endure endless pain and torture until his lifespan ran out. Wu Dao's main body suddenly smiled. Even so, he would not give up. Since he was trapped here, He would use the remaining time to deduce Wu Dao's dermic formulation, because he knew that if it was possible, he might still have a chance to leave this place. Wu Dao's main body did not know when it would be, so he could only wait patiently. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years had passed since the 10,000-year conference. Xian Immortal Kingdom, Royal Palace Library. At the top of the building, a plain-looking woman with light makeup was half leaning and half lying on a bamboo chair. Her hair was tied up with a ribbon and casually draped behind her back. The plain-clothed woman held an ancient book in her hands and read it with concentration. At this moment, a series of footsteps came from downstairs. Immediately after, a maidservant walked up to the plain-clothed woman's side and brewed a pot of tea for her. Then, she said softly, "Princess, take a rest." After a while, the plain-clothed woman seemed to come back to her senses and nodded. She slowly got up and took a sip of tea. Her gaze did not leave the ancient book in her hands as she asked casually, "Did anything big happen outside during this period of time?" "I heard that something big happened at the Pure Lands." The maidservant stuck out her tongue and said seriously. The plain-clothed woman still did not raise her head. This maidservant of hers liked to be startled. She loved to make small things sound as if it was a big deal. The maidservant continued, "I heard that Emperor Bo Sun escaped from the Avicii Hell and reappeared in the Heaven Realm." Hearing the words Emperor Bo Sun, the plain-clothed woman's expression changed slightly. She frowned slightly and raised her head. She said in a deep voice, "What happened? Tell me in detail." The maidservant said, "About 1,000 years ago, a group of people came from the demon territory. They broke through the Grand Tai Wei Mountain and barged into the Avicii Hell. It wasn't long before only a moon-devouring celestial wolf escaped from the Avicii Hell. The others died in the Avicii Hell." The plain-clothed woman frowned and said, "How is that possible? Who can escape from the Avicii Hell? What's the cultivation of this heavenly wolf?" "It's said that it's only in the heaven immortal realm," the maidservant said. The plain-clothed woman frowned and fell into deep thought. The news came from the Pure Lands and was spread by many parties. Many details might be wrong, but the general idea should be correct. "Continue," the plain-clothed woman said. The maidservant said, "Later on, Emperor Bo Sun escaped from the Avicii Hell. At that time, the 5 heavenly kings of the Nanjian continent were alarmed. In the end, Emperor Bo Sun killed 4 of them and severely injured one of them. The Shura temple on the Grand Tai Wei Mountain was reduced to ruins. The monks inside were all dead." After pausing for a moment, the maidservant said mysteriously, "I heard that the group of people who first entered the Avicii Hell were the former subordinates of Emperor Bo Sun. This time, they broke into the Avicii Hell and undid Emperor Bo Sun's seal, allowing this fiend to escape." The plain-clothed woman shook her head slightly. These speculations were mostly made up by busybodies and could not be accurate. However, this news was indeed shocking. "What happened later on?" the plain-clothed woman asked again. The maidservant said, "Later on, this matter alarmed the Emperor Lord experts of the Pure Lands of the Buddhist sections. I heard that they even fought with Emperor Bo Sun. The latter was no match for them and fled to the demon territory, never to appear again. I also heard that Emperor Bo Sun escaped from the Avicii Hell and even caused a crack to appear in the Avicii Hell. It can no longer trap anyone. Recently, many cultivators are preparing to head to the Avicii Hell to explore and obtain an opportunity." End of chapter. Chapter 23:17. The plain-clothed woman frowned and fell into deep thought. Ever since the Avicii Hell existed, it had experienced the longevity era. Countless years had passed since then. Countless experts had been buried there over such a long period of time, but no living being had ever come out alive. In other words, the Avicii Hell was indeed an unimaginable treasure trove. Just the treasures left behind by the experts were countless. The maidservant said, "One can freely enter and exit the Avicii Hell. I wonder how many experts will enter and who will obtain the opportunities inside." "It's not that simple." The plain-clothed woman shook her head slightly and said, "The Avicii Hell was established by the Empyrean Emperor. Even if it was destroyed by Emperor Bo Sun, it's definitely not a good place. Just the life forms of hell that are nurtured, there are probably not many who can resist them. The maidservant asked blankly, "What life forms of hell?" The plain-clothed woman did not explain. She closed the ancient book in her hand and placed it on the bamboo chair beside her. The front of the book was written with the words, "Epic of Empyrean." This book was not a cultivation technique or secret art, but a biography. It recorded many major events that happened in the upper realm during the Epic of Empyrean, as well as the biographies of some experts. Among them, the most famous was naturally the Empyrean emperor who had founded an epic. Therefore, the plain-clothed woman's understanding of the Empyrean emperor far exceeded others. The plain-clothed woman stood up and paced back and forth. She muttered thoughtfully, "This matter is a little strange." "What do you mean? What's strange?" The maidservant asked again. The plain-clothed woman frowned and said, "This matter happened 1,000 years ago. Why did news only spread now?" Emperor Bosun's appearance is no small matter. The implications are too great. The Buddhist sanctum probably suppressed it, answered the maidservant. Since it was suppressed, why would such news suddenly spread? The plain-clothed woman asked in return. The maidservant shrugged slightly and shook her head. The plain-clothed woman continued, "Furthermore, that's the Avicii hell after all, a forbidden land that even emperors fear. It has existed for so many years without any problems. Why would it be destroyed by Emperor Bosun's power?" The maidservant said, "Perhaps it's too old and couldn't withstand the corrosion of time." The plain-clothed woman shook her head slightly. She was about to speak when her heart stirred as she thought of something. If the prison-suppressing cauldron is in that person's hands, it means that there is no prison-suppressing cauldron in the Avicii hell. The plain-clothed woman muttered to herself, "From the looks of it, it makes sense that Emperor Bosun rushed out of the Avicii hell and caused a crack to appear in the Avicii hell." "Princess, what are you talking about?" The maid asked curiously, "What's suppressing hell cauldron? What person?" "Nothing." The plain-clothed lady changed the topic and asked, "Is Yunting still in seclusion?" The maid nodded. "I'm preparing to make a trip to the Pure Lands. If he comes out of seclusion, don't tell him about this." "Ah!" The maid reacted and exclaimed, "Princess, you're not going to Avicii, are you? Didn't you just say that it was very dangerous inside?" "It is very dangerous, but I still have to go." The plain-clothed woman said, "I have many questions and curiosities towards the life of the Empyrean emperor. Perhaps I can only find the answers in the ceaseless pain hell." The maidservant looked worried and said, "Princess, please bring more people this time." "No need. I'll go alone this time." The plain-clothed lady said, "If we really encounter danger in a place like the ceaseless pain hell, no matter how many people we bring, we'll die in vain. But if this news spreads, there will definitely be experts gathered there. When the time comes, who knows what kind of conflict will erupt in order to fight for the treasure? It's too dangerous." The maid said again. No matter what, the ceaseless pain hell is one of the most dangerous forbidden lands since ancient times. Those who cultivate to the Empyrean emperor realm have long lives and long lives. It's very difficult for any treasure to tempt them. The plain-clothed lady was extremely calm as she analyzed, therefore, they won't take the risk. As for immortal kings, they might not be in a hurry to enter. Most likely, they won't act rashly and will wait and see. I think that the cultivators who will enter the ceaseless pain hell this time should be sky immortals and true immortals. At this level, I'm not afraid of anything. Even if I'm not a match for them, I can escape unscathed. Although the plain-clothed lady had decided to go to the ceaseless pain hell, it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. Instead, she had analyzed all the dangers, including the possible situations, and planned before taking action. In addition, she knew a lot about the Empyrean emperor, so she had some confidence. The plain-clothed lady saw that the maid beside her still had a worried expression and couldn't help but smile. "Don't worry. I'm only going this time to find some answers about the Empyrean emperor. I'm not going to fight with them for the treasure. Even if they go crazy for the treasure, it has nothing to do with me." Heaven and Earth Academy, place of true teachings. A man and woman stood in front of a cave abode. From afar, they looked like a golden boy and jade girl. The man's figure was tall and straight, like an unsheathed sharp sword. His eyes were sharp, and there was a faint cold light flickering in them. His bearing was extraordinary. The woman was fairy-like and beautiful. She just stood there quietly, her clothes fluttering in the wind. Her entire person was in perfect harmony with the nearby vegetation, the distant mountain peaks, the clouds in the sky, and the dancing butterflies on her shoulders, forming an indescribably beautiful picture. The man was the true disciple of Heaven and Earth Academy, the Moonlight Sword Immortal. The woman was the painting immortal, the Qing. Junior sister, why are you so stubborn and insist on going to the Avicii Hell? The Moonlight Sword Immortal frowned. The Avicii Hell is too dangerous. Even if there are cracks, there's a 90% chance of survival. What kind of status do you have? What kind of noble status do you have? There's no need to take such a big risk. Fairy Mo Qing's expression was indifferent, and she remained silent. The Moonlight Sword Immortal continued, Junior sister, I'll do my best to help you get whatever you want, as long as you're willing to tell me. Thank you, Senior Brother Moonlight. Fairy Mo Qing said, but you can't get what I want. What? Why don't you say it? The Moonlight Sword Immortal said proudly. Fairy Mo Qing said, Senior Yu Daozi's gods, ghosts, immortals, and demon painting. The Moonlight Sword Immortal's expression froze. Fairy Mo Qing continued, Yu Daozi was once a senior of the academy. The gods, ghosts, immortals, and demon painting contains 4 of his best works. It also contains his painting skills, painting techniques, and painting path. When I first entered the academy, a large part of the reason was because I liked Senior Yu Daozi's paintings. But he's been dead for many years, and the gods, ghosts, immortals, and demon painting has long been lost. The Moonlight Sword Immortal said helplessly, there are countless paintings in the world. I can find you other masterpieces. That's not necessary. Fairy Mo Qing shook her head slightly. Senior Yu Daozi went to the Avicii Hell alone to complete the 4th, ghost painting, and never came out. He's already dead. The gods, ghosts, immortals, and demon painting should also be buried there. Chapter 23:18. The Moonlight Sword Immortal saw that Fairy Mo Qing was determined and his expression darkened. A trace of gloom flashed across his eyes. He believed that Fairy Mo Qing knew his feelings. But after so many years, this junior sister had always been lukewarm towards him and adhered to the etiquette of fellow disciples. The two of them did not even have the chance to take a step forward. The Moonlight Sword Immortal thought of Mo Qing's personality and was not in a hurry. He did not force her. However, in these years, rumors about Fairy Mo Qing and Yang Ruoxu had spread far and wide. This made the Moonlight Sword Immortal very angry. His patience was also gradually wearing thin. He did not want to wait any longer. The Moonlight Sword Immortal turned around and stood in front of Fairy Mo Qing. He looked at her affectionately and said gently, Junior sister, in these years, there have been many bad rumors about you in the outside world. I'm very angry and my heart aches for you. It's not like there's no way to resolve this matter. As long as I ask Master to help us become Tao companions, we can announce it to the world and send out wedding invitations. Naturally, we can clear your name and those rumors will be dispelled. Fairy Mo Qing smiled gently and said, Thank you for your kindness, Senior Brother Moonlight. However, you don't have to do this. I rarely go out. I just stay here and study my painting Tao. No matter how many rumors there are in the outside world, I don't care. I'm innocent. Fairy Mo Qing's meaning was very clear. The Moonlight Sword Immortal was proud. It was rare for him to take the initiative to express his feelings. Now that he was rejected, he naturally could not continue to pester her. The Moonlight Sword Immortal was silent for a while. Suddenly he asked faintly, Junior sister, did you really go to the Avicii Great Hell for the deities, demons, immortals, and demons diagram? Of course. Fairy Mo Qing was slightly surprised. She asked in return, What else does Senior Brother Moonlight think? The Moonlight Sword Immortal turned to look at the forest in the distance. He smiled mockingly and said casually, Nothing. Since junior sister has made up her mind, I can't persuade you anymore. I can only wish junior sister a safe return. The Moonlight Sword Immortal cupped his hands and said one more sentence before leaving expressionlessly. Fairy Mo Ching looked at the Moonlight Sword Immortal's back and sighed softly in her heart. Although she was pure, she could feel the Moonlight Sword Immortal's feelings. However, she had always regarded the Moonlight Sword Immortal as her senior brother and had no other intentions. Now that he had rejected the other party, senior brother Yuehua would definitely be extremely sad and disappointed. Thinking of this, Fairy Mo Ching's mood became somewhat complicated. Xiao Dai, did I do something wrong? Fairy Mo Ching lowered her head and murmured, perhaps senior apprentice brother Yuehua is the one destined for me. Perhaps I should become Dao companions with him. Actually, senior brother Yuehua is not a bad person. Not good. Hypocrite. Xiao Dai's voice was crisp and filled with a hint of disdain. He doesn't even dare to go with you when he knows you're going to the Avicii hell. If it's someone who truly cares about you, why would they let you go to a dangerous place alone? Fairy Mo Ching shook her head and said, don't blame him. After all, we are from the same sect. How could I let him put himself in danger for me? Anyway, this person is not good, Xiao Dai said crisply. After a moment of silence, Fairy Mo Ching looked into the distance. Her eyes were a bit lost as she softly said, what is love? Why can't I feel it? You spend all your time on your paintings and rarely interact with others. Of course you can't feel the love of the mortal world. Xiao Dai seemed to be very experienced. If you travel more and meet more cultivators, you'll definitely meet someone you like. Fairy Mo Ching tilted her head in confusion. She only liked mountains, rivers, plants, and paintings, but she had never liked anyone. She didn't know what it was like. It's like being moved. Xiao Dai explained, if you can meet someone who makes your heart beat faster and you think about them day and night, then it's like. Fairy Mo Ching carefully thought about it. Up until now, she hadn't met anyone who could move her heart. However, there were quite a few paintings that made her heart beat faster. Xiao Dai, do you have someone you like? Why do you know so much? Fairy Mo Ching asked with a smile. I don't. Xiao Dai said, I've only heard about this from others. Fairy Mo Ching smiled. She chatted with Xiao Dai for a while and felt a lot less annoyed. Normally, she lived and cultivated alone without any immortal servants by her side. She was used to being alone and liked the quiet feeling. Over the years, with Xiao Dai's company, although there were more voices, it made her smile a lot more. Oh right, Xiao Dai, there's something you haven't explained to me. Fairy Mo Ching said with a bit of blame, why do you always go to the inner sect? After this ice butterfly was saved by her, it was cold to everyone and didn't want anyone to get close to it. However, it didn't have any conflict with an inner sect disciple. She heard that the inner sect disciple had been taken in by her master as a disciple in name. If he reached the true self realm, he would be able to become her master's disciple in name. That person has an aura that makes me feel very close to him, Xiao Dai said hesitantly. Don't tell me you like him? Fairy Mo Ching asked jokingly. Xiao Dai hurriedly explained, that person has an aura that's very similar to the Yao Emperor of my race. It's so strange. Yao Emperor? Fairy Mo Ching was surprised. Only Yao Emperors could become Yao Emperors. That was definitely a high and mighty existence that stood at the peak of the upper world. How could an inner sect disciple of the academy be related to him? Moreover, he was a Yao Emperor far away in the great desolate domain. That Yao Emperor is the pride of my race. She's the expert that I respect, admire, and worship the most. Even if I have to die for her, I'm willing. Speaking of this Yao Emperor, Xiao Dai's eyes glowed with fanaticism and pride. Every monarch will be respected by his clansmen, said Qin Wenin. Fairy Mo Ching nodded. No. Xiao Dai shook her head and said, she's different from other emperors. She's the pride of my race, the hope of my race, and the pride of the entire Yao race. For some reason, Xiao Dai seemed to become excited when mentioning this Yao Emperor. Our butterfly race was extremely weak when we were born, Xiao Dai said. Xiao Dai replied, Even though a few butterflies with powerful bloodlines have appeared during this period of time, like the monarch butterfly bloodline, they were still unable to contend against the other races. Fairy Mo Qing wasn't unfamiliar with this. The butterfly race was indeed one of the weakest races. They were far weaker than humans. Xiao Dai continued. However, this Yao emperor of my race changed the status of the butterfly race among the 10,000 races by herself. She gave us a place in the great desolate domain and even the upper world. As long as this Yao emperor of my race is here, the butterfly race isn't a weak race. Fairy Mo Qing opened her mouth slightly in shock. Changing the status of the butterfly race among the 10,000 races by herself. Other emperors couldn't compare to her. End of chapter. Chapter 23:19. After the Moonlight Sword Immortal left Mo Qing's cave abode, she went straight home. Along the way, her expression was cold, and the sharpness emanating from her body almost tore through the void. A few core disciples saw the Moonlight Sword Immortal and did not dare to approach her. They only cupped their hands and bowed, then stayed far away, afraid of offending the Moonlight Sword Immortal. Not long after, the Moonlight Sword Immortal arrived at her cave abode. The other core disciple, Xiao Li, had been waiting at the door for a long time. Senior brother, what's the matter? Xiao Li saw that the Moonlight Sword Immortal's expression was not right and went forward to ask. The Moonlight Sword Immortal did not say a word. She just walked straight into the cave abode with a solemn expression. The door opened automatically, and Xiao Li hurriedly followed. After returning to the cave abode and sitting down, an immortal servant had already served tea. She carefully poured it and placed it in front of the two core disciples, then bowed her head and left. The Moonlight Sword Immortal picked up the fragrant tea in front of her and drank it in one gulp. After a long silence, she said, Junior sister Mo Qing wants to go to the Avicii Hell. Xiao Li said, I've also heard about the news of the Avicii Hell. This time, many desperados have been alerted. Cultivators from the Pure Lands, the Nine Heavens Immortal Domain, and the Demon Domain have all moved. However, the Avicii Hell is not a good place. It's too dangerous. As one of the four great fairies, senior sister Mo Qing doesn't have to take such a risk, right? I also advised her not to take the risk, but she insisted on going. The Moonlight Sword Immortal was a little angry. Although she's usually quiet and weak, she's not weak at all. She doesn't listen to me at all. What's in the Avicii Hell that senior sister Mo Qing wants to go there? Xiao Li asked again. She said she wants to find Yu Daozi's gods, ghosts, immortals, and demon painting. The Moonlight Sword Immortal sneered and replied. That's possible. Senior sister Mo Qing is obsessed with painting. For the gods, ghosts, immortals, and demon painting, she might go to the Avicii Hell to explore. Oomph. The Moonlight Sword Immortal's face darkened. She said coldly, Do you really think she went to the Avicii Hell for the gods, immortals, and demon painting? Isn't that so? Xiao Li was stunned for a moment, his expression blank. The Moonlight Sword Immortal said coldly, Yang Ruoxu was just crippled and his primordial spirit was severely injured. Junior sister Mo Qing must have gone to the Avicii Hell to look for the fretless fruit to heal Yang Ruoxu. Ah! A look of realization flashed across Xiao Li's eyes. The Moonlight Sword Immortal clenched her fists and said coldly, She thinks I can't guess and still wants to hide it. Senior brother, what should we do? Xiao Li asked, Should we ask Qing Yun and the others to do something and kill Yang Ruoxu secretly? There's no need. The Moonlight Sword Immortal sneered. The carefree tree has been broken for so many years. Finding the carefree fruit in the Avicii Hell is harder than finding a needle in a haystack. I'll wait for her return at the academy. I want to see her in despair. The Moonlight Sword Immortal suddenly laughed and said faintly, Junior sister Mo Qing returned empty-handed and Yang Ruoxu was seriously injured. The two of them parted forever. I don't want to miss such a good show. Looking at the Moonlight Sword Immortal's smile, Xiao Li suddenly felt a chill. Senior brother Yuehua's hatred for senior sister Mo Qing had already exceeded his imagination. He did not understand why senior brother Yuehua, who had previously admired and loved senior sister Mo Qing, would hate her to the core in the blink of an eye and have such vicious thoughts. In a cave abode in the inner sect of the academy, Fang Qingyun, Tang Peng, and Yen Bingying were gathered here. Senior brother Fang, I heard that Yang Ruoxu was traveling outside and meddling in other people's business. In the end, he was seriously injured and almost died outside. Tang Peng was a little excited and said, I heard that he is now lying in the cave abode like a dead dog. He is already crippled. This saves us the trouble of taking action. Yes, if senior brother Fang were to take action, you are not allowed to fight to the death on the sword discourse arena. At most, you can defeat him and teach him a lesson. Yen Bingying said, there are not as many rules outside as in the academy. I heard that his essence spirit was seriously injured. He was lucky to be able to escape with his life intact. Fang Qingyun did not speak. He only smiled faintly and listened to their discussion. A trace of pride flashed across the depths of his eyes. It was only now that he smiled and suddenly said, do you really think that he was lucky to be able to escape with his life intact? Ah! Tang Peng was stunned. Before he could react, Fang Qingyun said again, do you really think that Yang Ruox's accident this time was just an accident? Tang Peng's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Fang Qingyun with wide eyes and said in a low voice, could it be that senior brother was the one who took action this time? I did not take action personally. I just planned it. Fang Qingyun said, the people who took action this time were all top experts of the major forces. Pang Yi of the Pang clan, Duke Yuanzhua and his executioner guards, Sky Immortal Gui Yuan of the Flying Immortal Sect, and Duke Xie Tianhong of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. I only told them about Yang Ruoxu's whereabouts and asked them to take action. I watched the battle from the side. After a pause, Fang Qingyun laughed again and said, I have to say that the battle was very exciting. Yen Bingying frowned slightly and did not speak. Although she was extremely disgusted with Yang Ruoxu because of the Moonlight Sword Immortal and the others, she still felt a little conflicted about asking outsiders to take action against her fellow disciples. Tang Peng, on the other hand, was excited. So it was senior brother who planned everything behind the scenes. It was such a big move. No wonder. Since senior brother Yuanhua asked me to do so, I will do my best. Fang Qingyun smiled faintly. Tang Peng was a little confused and asked, senior brother Fang, with so many experts taking action, how did you let Yang Ruoxu come back alive? That's what I meant. Fang Qingyun had a smile on his face. He didn't continue speaking, but he didn't continue. Why is that? Tang Peng thought for a long time but could not figure it out. He frowned and asked. Yen Bingying said, perhaps senior brother Fang spared his life because he was from the same sect. Fang Qin shook his head slightly and said, I let him come back to deal with another person. Su Zimo. Tang Peng also reacted at this time and blurted out. That's right. Fang Qingyun nodded. What's the plan? Tang Peng asked. Although he realized that Fang Qingyun wanted to deal with Su Zimo, he could not think of how to make use of this opportunity. Fang Qingyun said, Su Zimo was accepted as an in-name disciple by the Patriarch. His status is much higher than Yang Ruoxu's. If we mobilize a large force to ambush him in the Divine Cloud continent, I'm worried that it will attract the Patriarch's attention. Therefore, if you want to deal with Su Zimo, it's best to do it outside the Divine Cloud celestial realm. The further, the better. Yang Ruoxu's primordial spirit is seriously injured. It won't be long before Su Zimo receives the news. There are very few immortal herbs that can heal primordial spirit injuries. The fretless fruit is one of them. Hearing this, Tang Peng's eyes lit up. He continued Fang Qingyun's words and continued, recently, news came from the Pure Lands. A crack has appeared in the Avicii Hell, and there are countless treasures inside. The fretless fruit might be there. Therefore, senior brother's goal is to use Yang Ruoxu's primordial spirit injury to lure Su Zimo to the Avicii Hell and kill him there. Fang Qingyun smiled and did not say anything. It was a tacit agreement. Tang Peng could not help but clap his hands and exclaim in admiration, this is a series of linked plans. Two birds with one stone. While dealing with Yang Ruoxu, we'll set a hook to get rid of Su Zimo to prevent future trouble. Senior brother, this plan of yours can really be called strategizing in a tent and determining victory from 1,000 miles away. I think your wisdom is not inferior to the patriarch's. End of chapter. Chapter 23:20. Tang Peng's words caused Fang Qingyun to be overjoyed. The patriarch of the academy had unparalleled wisdom and was omniscient. Almost every disciple of the academy was filled with respect for the patriarch. Tang Peng comparing him to the patriarch meant that he was definitely qualified to be the patriarch's disciple and become the patriarch's personal disciple. Of course, Fang Qingyun pretended to be calm on the surface and said humbly, "I'm far from the patriarch's glory." Yan Bingying's expression was strange as she hesitated to speak. "What do you want to say, junior sister?" Fang Qingyun asked with a smile as he noticed Yan Bingying's abnormality from the corner of his eye. Yan Bingying hesitated for a moment before saying, "I feel that it's inappropriate to let outsiders kill fellow disciples of the academy." Ever since she witnessed Su Zimo passing the Tao Heart Staircase trial and condensing rank 10 1,000 years ago, her impression of Su Zimo had changed significantly. She continued, "Furthermore, we don't have any deep grudges with senior brother Su. Senior brother Yuehua only asked us to deal with Yang Ruoxu. There's no need to, fu-fu." Suddenly, Fang Qingyun chuckled. "You're already calling him senior brother Su. Are you close to him, junior sister?" "No." Yan Bingying's expression changed slightly as she shook her head hurriedly. Tang Peng frowned. "Senior sister Yan, why are you speaking up for that servant? Don't forget that he was the one who killed senior brother Pang." "We haven't confirmed who killed senior brother Pang. The greatest possibility is still Yang Ruoxu," Yan Bingying said. Tang Peng harumphed coldly. "That has something to do with Su Zimo as well." "Stop arguing." Fang Qingyun was a little impatient as he hollered, "Su Zimo has offended too many people. It has nothing to do with us if he dies outside." "Senior brother, I didn't make it the previous time. I can't miss it this time." Tang Peng grit his teeth. "I'm going to Avicii too. I want to see Su Zimo's fate with my own eyes. Only then will it be satisfying. Last time during the Tao Heart Staircase trial, it was this Su Zimo who made me lose face." After pausing for a short moment, Tang Peng was slightly worried and said, "Senior brother, the Avicii hell is too dangerous. Wouldn't setting up an ambush there be too risky?" Fang Qingyun smiled and said, "Why are you so stubborn? Our goal is to lure Su Zimo away from Godly Cloud's continent. If you want to fight, why do you have to do it in the Avicii hell?" "I understand." Tang Peng was overjoyed. "Senior brother, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave." Yan Bingying felt a bit irritated. She cupped her hands and bid farewell to Fang Qingyun. Fang Qingyun nodded and did not urge him to stay. After Yan Bingying left, Tang Peng's face sank, and he asked in a low voice, "Senior brother, senior sister Yan won't report this to the seniors of the sect, right?" Fang Qingyun said indifferently, "Everything requires evidence. She doesn't have any evidence, so what can she report?" "That's good." Tang Peng nodded and said, "I feel that senior sister Yan has changed a lot over the years. She's not as close to us anymore." "Huh?" Fang Qingyun laughed mockingly and said, "Let's see what she chooses. If she chooses to stand on Su Zimo's side, it can only mean that she's a stupid woman." "Senior brother, nothing will go wrong this time, right?" Tang Peng was a little worried and said, "That Su Zimo seems to be a little evil. He was full of confidence during the Tao Heart Stairs incident, but in the end he suffered a big setback. A true disciple was crippled just like that. Even the 9 elders of the academy and the patriarch were alarmed. Thinking about it now, he felt a lingering fear. This time, it's the Pan clan, the Great Gene Celestial Kingdom, the Flaming Sun Celestial Kingdom, and the Flying Celestial Sect. Fang Qingyun said in a low voice, "Just Pang Yi, Duke Yuanzhua, Xie Tianhong, and Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan. These 4 stage 9 Heavenly Immortals can kill Su Zimo like stepping on an ant. Moreover, these people will bring many of their trusted aides. What can go wrong?" After pausing for a while, Fang Qingyun continued, "Don't worry, these people have a deep grudge with Su Zimo. They want him dead more than we do. Even if they invite a perfected immortal, I won't be surprised. Senior brother, are you not going this time? Tang Ping asked. A group of Stage 9 heavenly immortals besieging a Stage 1 heavenly immortal. What's there to see? I'm not interested. Fong Qingyun shrugged slightly and pursed his lips. When the time comes, I'll go and join in the fun. Tang Ping grinned, his eyes filled with eagerness and anticipation. In a cave abode, Su Zimo let out a long breath and opened his eyes. After stepping into the heavenly essence realm, his cultivation speed had obviously slowed down. For example, Princess Qi Hong, Lu Ping, and other disciples who joined the inner sect at the same time as him, and even some who joined the inner sect hundreds or thousands of years earlier, had not cultivated to the second level of the heavenly essence realm. As for Su Zimo, with the help of Qinglian's true body, the divine dragon pill, essence spirit liquid, and other supreme-grade cultivation resources, he had already cultivated to the peak of Stage 2 heavenly immortal. Although the Stage 11 Qinglian's true body absorbed the heaven and earth yuan qi very quickly, the consumption of cultivation resources was also unimaginable. If not for the large amount of cultivation resources he had, it would not even be enough for Qinglian's true body to cultivate for 1,000 years. Cultivating in the heavenly essence realm had obviously become much more difficult. However, it was difficult to continuously break through multiple realms like before when he was in seclusion all year round. Now, Su Zimo had reached the peak of Stage 2 heavenly immortal but had encountered a bottleneck. He had been stuck at it for many years and had not succeeded in breaking through. It was no wonder that even in a sky-level sect like Heaven and Earth Academy, most of the inner sect disciples would never be able to step into the perfected immortal realm. Cultivators who could become perfected immortals all had talent, opportunities, providence, perseverance, and other karma. None of them could be lacking. No one would have a smooth journey. In the past few days, Lu Ping and Princess Qi Hong had come to his cave abode many times, as if something had happened. Now, Lu Ping was loitering outside again. Seeing that he could not break through the bottleneck in a short period of time, Su Zimo did not continue cultivating and prepared to go out to take a look. Junior brother Lu, what's the matter? Su Zimo pushed open the door and asked softly. As Lu Ping had inherited the body of a willow tree, even after 1,000 years, he still looked like a child with a few emerald green braids on his head. Lu Ping hesitated for a moment and said, Senior brother Su, something has happened to senior brother Yang. Yang Ruoxu? Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. In Heaven and Earth Academy, the only cultivator with the surname Yang that he knew was Yang Ruoxu. Lu Ping said, I heard that senior brother Yang was traveling outside. Because of some injustice, he got into a conflict with someone and was surrounded. Given senior brother Yang's means, who can hurt him? Su Zimo frowned and asked as he walked towards Yang Ruoxu's cave abode. I heard that there were experts from Flying Immortal Sect and Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom. Lu Ping said, however, they were all rank 9 heavenly immortals. Although they joined forces to attack him, they did not bully him. The academy could not say anything either. How are his injuries? Su Zimo asked again. He's severely injured. His essence spirit was severely injured. After the patriarch took a look, he could not treat it either. He's most likely crippled from now on, sigh. Lu Ping sighed. Su Zimo's expression darkened and he did not say anything. Back at the immortal sect selection, if Yang Ruoxu had not withstood the pressure and went against Zither immortal Meng Yao, he would have died long ago. During the conflict in the outer sect of the academy, Yang Ruoxu had also stood up for him and endured a lot of pressure and hostility. He was indebted to Yang Ruoxu. Now that he was in trouble, Su Zimo would definitely not sit by and do nothing. Chapter 23-21. Before long, Su Zimo and Lu Ping arrived in front of Yang Ruoxu's cave abode. Not far away, a red streak of light sped over. It was the Scarlet Rainbow Princess. Zimo, I heard that you were out of seclusion, so I came here directly. Indeed, you're here, the Scarlet Rainbow Princess greeted. With a heavy heart, Su Zimo merely nodded slightly as a greeting. The three of them turned around and looked at the cave abode not far away. In just a few days, this abode had become slightly dilapidated and deserted. There were no immortal servants or Taoist children standing guard nearby. The spirit garden and herb garden nearby were trampled into a mess by some spirit beast, and no one took care of it. One had to know that inner sect disciples could choose 100 immortal servants and Tao children to help them deal with some miscellaneous and trivial matters. However, along the way, Su Zimo did not see any of Yang Ruoxu's Tao children. Su Zimo pushed open the door and entered. The moment he entered the cave abode, he smelled a strong medicinal smell mixed with a hint of blood. The cave abode was dark and no one even lit a candle. Su Zimo's expression darkened as he continued forward. "Is someone here?" Suddenly, a voice sounded from the front with a weak aura. The moment he said that, a series of violent coughs sounded. "Young master, don't get up. I'll go take a look." Immediately after, there was a flurry of frantic sounds. Before long, a Tao child ran out from the front. His hair was messy and his body was covered in blood. He looked exhausted and had not slept for a few days. "You guys are," the Tao child spoke. "I'm Su Zimo. I'm here to visit senior brother Yang," Su Zimo said in a deep voice. The Tao child froze for a moment before recovering. He seemed to have heard of Su Zimo's name and hurriedly bowed to Su Zimo and the other two. "Greetings, exalted immortals. Please follow me." The Taoist children were not considered disciples of the academy. They were just immortal servants. When they saw the disciples of the academy, they had to respectfully greet them as immortals. Su Zimo and the other two followed the Tao child. After walking for a few dozen feet, they saw a jade bed in front of them. A man was lying on it. His face was yellow and his life force was weak. It was Yang Ruoxu. "Young master, someone is here to see you." The Taoist child ran to Yang Ruoxu's bed and knelt down. He cried out softly with a choked voice. In the past few days, other than Su Zimo and the other two, no one else had come to visit Yang Ruoxu, even if it was just for show. Therefore, when the Tao child said that, he felt a wave of sadness in his heart. "Heard you." Yang Ruoxu smiled and said, "Help me up." The Taoist child got up and supported Yang Ruoxu. He sat up and leaned against the headboard. "Where are the other immortal servants?" Su Zimo's face darkened as he frowned. "Why are you alone?" "Oomph." Hearing this, the Taoist child suddenly became agitated and said angrily, "They all abandoned young master and left to find other backers." "Don't say that." Yang Ruoxu smiled faintly and said, "I was the one who dismissed them. I'm severely injured and don't have long to live. I'll only be a burden to them if they follow me." "But you're in danger now. How could they leave you alone and leave just like that? You've always treated us so well, young master. You gave us elixirs and elemental spirit stones and let us cultivate with you. You even explained and preached to us. You've never looked down on us because of our background." At this point, the Taoist child was already on the verge of tears. He pouted and tears welled up in his eyes as he tried his best to stop them from flowing. "I don't have a good background and have been mocked by many." Yang Ruoxu said, "I know that feeling. It's terrible. Since that's the case, how could I look down on you and mock you?" At that point, Princess Chi Hong's heart skipped a beat. She turned away with reddened eyes and sighed internally. The fickleness of human nature and the fickleness of the world. Yang Ruoxu was an upright person and did not like to form cliques. Furthermore, he was born in the lower world and was isolated in the academy without many friends. All these years, other cultivators were unwilling to get too close to him because of the Moonlight Sword Immortal. Now that Yang Ruoxu was in trouble, there were even fewer people who would visit him. However, the immortal servants and Taoist children who followed Yang Ruoxu were the ones who received the most grace from him. Now that they had left, it was a pity. Yang Ruoxu reached out and wiped away the tears on the Taoist child's face gently, saying softly, "Don't cry. You're still with me and haven't left." The Taoist child nodded vigorously. "Don't worry, young master. As long as I'm alive, I'll always be by your side." Su Zimo walked forward and caressed the Taoist child's forehead gently. The Taoist child's eyelids felt heavy and he fell asleep in a daze. Su Zimo noticed that the Taoist child had not closed his eyes for many days and was extremely exhausted. That was why he used a Tao technique to let him rest. Thank you, Yang Ruoxu nodded gently. Junior brother Su, Yang Ruoxu had just opened his mouth when he seemed to have thought of something. You've already been accepted as an in-name disciple by the Patriarch. I should address you as senior brother Su. There's no need for that between us, Su Zimo said. Brother Yang, if you don't mind, we can just call each other brothers. Yang Ruoxu hesitated for a moment before smiling. All right, I don't have long to live anyway. I shouldn't implicate you. What happened? Su Zimo asked in a deep voice. Yang Ruoxu remained silent for a long time before shaking his head. Forget it. There's no need to bring up the past. I heard that someone from the Pang clan made a move. Was it because of Pang Yu's death? Su Zimo asked. No, Yang Ruoxu replied. Yang Ruoxu replied, it was just a coincidental conflict. You can't blame others for your lack of skills. Yang Ruoxu knew that if he told the truth, Su Zimo would definitely stand up for him. By then, he would definitely be implicated. Although Su Zimo was an in-name disciple of the Patriarch of the Academy, he had just joined the Academy and his cultivation realm was not high. There was no way he could fight against those from the Academy. Someone from the Academy was involved? Seeing that Yang Ruoxu was unwilling to say more, Su Zimo vaguely guessed something and asked again. Yang Ruoxu remained silent. After pausing for a moment, Yang Ruoxu suddenly changed the topic. Right, there's something else that's a little strange. Back then, those people could have taken my life but they did not kill me. They only severely injured my essence spirit before leaving. Lu Ping tilted his head slightly and analyzed. Senior brother Yang is an inner sect disciple of the Academy after all. The person who made a move probably had some reservations and did not dare to go overboard. That's possible. Yang Ruoxu pondered and said, however, I still feel that something is wrong. I can't put my finger on it. Brother Su, it's best that you don't leave the Academy for the time being. Cultivate in seclusion for a period of time. Yang Ruoxu reminded again. Su Zimo did not comment and chatted with Yang Ruoxu for a while more. Seeing that the latter looked tired, he left with Lu Ping and Princess Chi Hong. Chapter 23-22. After leaving Yang Ruoxu's cave abode, Su Zimo pondered for a moment before asking, did anything happen outside recently? The biggest thing should be that Emperor Lord Bo Sun escaped from the Avicii Hell and returned to the heavenly realm, Princess Chi Hong said. Emperor Lord Bo Sun. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He knew that Wu Dao's true body headed to the Avicii Hell in order to save Yen Beichen. However, after Wu Dao's true body entered the Avicii Hell, he lost contact with Qinglian's true body. For 1,000 years, they did not sense anything and it was as though Wu Dao's true body had vanished from the world. Qinglian's true body did not know what happened in the Avicii Hell, nor did she know that Emperor Lord Bo Sun escaped from the Avicii Hell. That was the reason why Qinglian's true body was so shocked when she heard that Emperor Lord Bo Sun was still alive. Princess Chi Hong recounted the news about the Avicii Hell and said, I heard that many cultivators from the heavenly realm have headed to the Avicii Hell recently to investigate. Avicii Hell. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and his heart skipped a beat. Suddenly he said, fretless fruit. What? Princess Chi Hong and Lu Ping were stunned. Su Zimo said in a deep voice, there might be a fretless fruit in the Avicii Hell and it can heal senior brother Yang's essence spirit. Qinglian's true body knew about the fretless fruit before Wu Dao's true body entered the Avicii Hell. Zimo, are you prepared to head to the Avicii Hell? Princess Chi Hong asked. That's right. Su Zimo did not hide it either. Even without Yang Ruoxu's matter, he had considered whether he should make a trip to the Avicii Hell. After all, that was where Wu Dao's true body disappeared. Right now, it was even more imperative. Princess Chi Hong said, the Avicii Hell is extremely dangerous. I'll go with you. Lu Ping said without hesitation. There's no need. Su Zimo shook his head and said, I do have a favor to ask of the two of you. Senior brother Su, please speak, Lu Ping said. Su Zimo said, senior brother Yang is seriously injured. During this period of time, his body and mind will be extremely difficult to bear. He has no one to protect him. I'm worried that something might have happened to him. Thus, I hope that the two of you can visit him more often during this period of time and help take care of him. Scarlet Rainbow Princess said, Don't worry, we will take good care of senior brother Yang. Everything has to wait for my return. Su Zimo urged again. Alright. Princess Chi Hong and Lu Ping nodded. Lu Ping continued, I'll go back and pack up now. I might as well move to senior brother Yang's place and accompany him during this period of time. I'll go too. Princess Chi Hong said. Gentlemen, let's part ways here. Su Zimo cupped his hands and bowed towards Chi Hong Infanta and Lu Ping. He did not have anyone he could trust in Qianquan Academy and could only entrust Princess Chi Hong and Lu Ping before him. Princess Chi Hong said, Zimo, I hope that you can return safely with the fretless fruit as well. The three of them soared into the air and left separately. To others, the Avicii Hell was indeed an unpredictable and dangerous place. However, Su Zimo had the fully repaired Hell Suppression Cauldron with him. He believed that this treasure would definitely be of some use in the Avicii Hell. Fretless fruit. Suddenly, Su Zimo sneered. Yang Roxu was right. There was indeed something wrong with the fact that he could return alive. When Su Zimo heard about the Avicii Hell, he guessed that someone must be plotting in secret to attack him. Yang Ruox's essence spirit injury was the bait. The other party must have expected that he would leave Qianquan Academy for Yang Ruoxu and head to the Avicii Hell. That was the reason why they set up such a trap. Let's see who's the one who wants to touch me. Su Zimo's expression was cold. The fact that Yang Ruoxu was severely injured triggered his killing intent. Just as Su Zimo was pondering, a figure flashed in front of him and blocked his path. It was Yan Bingying, who was known as the #1 fairy of the Academy's inner sect. She was on good terms with Fang Qingyun, Tang Peng and the others. What's the matter? Su Zimo had a feud with Fang Qingyun and the others and naturally did not have a good attitude towards her. Yan Bingying asked with a conflicted expression, Senior brother Su, where are you going? What has it got to do with you? Su Zimo asked expressionlessly. Yan Bingying opened her mouth slightly and hesitated. Su Zimo did not waste time with her and circled around Yan Bingying, speeding in the direction of the sect's teleportation formation. Senior brother Su. Yan Bingying did not turn around, but a voice transmission sounded in Su Zimo's mind. Don't head to the Avicii Hell. That's all I have to say. Su Zimo did not reply. In fact, he did not even pause and vanished in the blink of an eye. Ice. Yan Bingying looked at Su Zimo's departing back view and sighed deeply. She knew that this paragon who had condensed the 10th step of the Tao Heart Ladder in the sect was about to die. At the same time, in the depths of Qianquan Academy, in a rather ancient cultivation palace, white smoke rose from an incense burner, causing the entire palace to be shrouded in clouds like an immortal realm. Amidst the clouds, an incomparably handsome middle-aged man could be vaguely seen. He wore a green scholarly robe and sat in a lotus position with his eyes closed. It was the patriarch of the academy. All of a sudden, the clouds surged and gathered towards the center. Before long, a figure walked out slowly from the depths of the clouds. It was old Xian, who guarded the various secret pavilions of the academy and was also the 10th elder of the academy. What is it? The moment the patriarch of the academy opened his eyes, a boundless starry sky flashed in his eyes. There was a mist that spanned thousands of kilometers and a deep ocean that surged. However, everything returned to calm in the blink of an eye. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well, so clear that one could see the bottom. Have you heard about the news of the Avicii Hell? Old Xian asked straightforwardly, what do you think? There's something fishy about this. The patriarch of the academy said plainly, I've known about Bo Sun's escape from the Avicii Hell for a long time. Now, this news has suddenly spread throughout the heaven world. Someone must have done it on purpose. What do you mean? Old Xian frowned and asked, what's the motive for deliberately spreading this news? This could be a trap. The patriarch of the academy pondered and said, Now, various powers are restless. Countless cultivators are rushing towards the Avicii Hell to investigate. However, this news might be mixed with fake information. For example, there might not be any cracks in the Avicii Hell. SSS. Old Xian's expression changed, and he said seriously, "If what you said is true, then all the cultivators who entered the Avicii Hell will be buried there. No one will be able to come out." How many lives would that be? Old Xian pondered for a while and said, "But Bo Sun did escape from there. This matter can't be faked. Bo Sun could escape from there because he's Bo Sun." The patriarch of the academy smiled and asked in return, "But how many Bo Suns are there in this world? Among the cultivators who entered the Avicii Hell, who can compare to Bo Sun?" Chapter 23:23. Of course, this is just my guess. It might not be accurate. The academy patriarch laughed and asked, "Why, do you want to go to the Avicii Hell too?" Elder Xian rolled his eyes and said, "I'm already so old. I don't want to go to that place." After pausing for a while, Elder Xian continued, "However, I heard that Su Zimo is preparing to go to the Avicii Hell." The clan leader of the academy responded. He didn't seem to be surprised or interested. "Based on what you said, the Avicii Hell is so dangerous. Aren't you worried about him? He's an in-name disciple that you just accepted." Elder Xian raised his brows. "He might not be in any danger in the Avicii Hell," the academy patriarch said plainly. Elder Xian twisted his lips and said, "You predicted it? A place like the Avicii Hell can block heavenly secrets. How can you predict it?" The academy patriarch didn't explain. He said, "It's also possible that he doesn't have a chance to enter the Avicii Hell." But Elder Xian furrowed his brows and asked. The academy patriarch said, "Do you know that the inner disciple Yang Ruoxu was injured?" Elder Xian pondered for a while and squinted his eyes. He said, "Are you saying that someone used Yang Ruoxu's injury to lure Su Zimo to the Avicii Hell and set a trap in advance?" The academy patriarch didn't say anything. It was a silent admission. If that's the case, Yang Ruoxu's injury wasn't a coincidence. This also means that the academy disciples are involved in this. A cold radiance flashed across Elder Xian's eyes. He didn't usually ask about sect matters. However, he was meticulous and reacted quickly. He could roughly guess what was going on after the academy patriarch said a sentence. Elder Xian glanced at the academy patriarch and laughed coldly. "It seems like you already know who's behind this. Aren't you going to do something about it?" The academy patriarch shook his head slightly. Elder Xian snorted and said, "After you took over the academy, you didn't care about the fights between the academy disciples. You let them do whatever they want. There are many factions in the academy, and they are constantly fighting both openly and covertly. What good is this for the academy?" The patriarch of the academy sighed softly and said, "The advantage of this is that they can better adapt to the cruel world outside and grow faster. If the academy is peaceful, how can they deal with those schemes when they travel outside? This is the only way for the disciples of the academy to survive and establish themselves in the upper worlds when the academy encounters a calamity." Elder Xian was silent. The patriarch of the academy said, "Su Zimo has the transmission jade plate that I gave him. If he encounters any danger, he can crush the jade plate and be directly transmitted back. There should be no danger." "That's true," Elder Xian said. "However, that's the Avicii Hell after all. This time, the experts from all over the heaven realm have been alerted. That kid's cultivation is still too low. It's not enough. Since you're still worried, I'll perform a divination for him." The patriarch of the academy smiled and waved his sleeves. The clouds in front of him surged, and 8 ancient doors appeared. Every door was engraved with complex and mysterious runes, and they flickered with a faint light. The patriarch of the academy changed his hand gestures continuously, and his fingertips sank into the 8 doors. The 8 doors spun rapidly in midair. After a while, only one door was left, and it flickered with a faint light. The lights of the other 7 doors dimmed. "The death door!" Elder Xian's gaze froze, and his expression changed greatly. He shouted, "This trip is very dangerous. This The patriarch of the academy's expression was also serious, and he frowned. "We can't let him leave the academy," Elder Xian said in a low voice. The patriarch of the academy shook his head and said, "He values friendship. To save Yang Ruoxu, he wants to go to the Avicii hell to find the fretless fruit. If you stop him, it will backfire." Elder Xian thought for a while and said, "I'll follow him. If there are any changes, I can help in time." "All right." The patriarch of the academy nodded and said, "Be careful. If you encounter any danger, bring people back immediately. Don't get caught up in the battle." Elder Xian had already turned and left with his hands behind his back. Su Zimo came to the teleportation formation of the sect. He checked the map and directly located the teleportation formation of the Shura temple. A burst of light flickered, and his figure had already disappeared. Not long after, when Su Zimo reappeared, he had already stepped into the Pure Land. He was surrounded by dilapidated ruins, and there was no one around. Through the ruins, he could vaguely determine the origin and scale of these buildings. This was the Shura Temple of the Grand Taiwei Mountain. As soon as Su Zimo arrived, he could see many cultivators in midair, who turned into streaks of light and sped towards the Taiwei Mountain. It was unknown how many cultivators had entered the Avicii hell during this period of time. Su Zimo spread out his divine sense and carefully checked the surroundings, but he did not find any suspicious signs. He took a deep breath and also walked in the direction of the Taiwei Mountain. After walking for a short distance, his heart skipped a beat and he looked to his side. In the ruins, there was a tomb. Beside it was a dilapidated and shabby straw hut that was on the verge of collapse. The strange thing was that a long-browed old monk was sitting on a tombstone. He raised his head slightly and looked in the direction of the Taiwei Mountain. No one knew what he was thinking. Wu Dao's original body had once mentioned to Qinglian's original body that there was a long-browed old monk guarding the tomb in the depths of the Shura temple. It was a little strange. Qinglian's original body sized up the long-browed old monk, but did not see anything special. He seemed to be an old man with one foot in the grave. At this moment, the tomb keeper seemed to have sensed something. He turned his head slightly and looked in Su Zimo's direction. Suddenly, the tomb keeper exclaimed softly and turned around slowly. He stared straight at Su Zimo's face for a long time before smiling. Interesting. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he felt his scalp tingle. What did the tomb keeper discover? Qinglian's true body? Or was there some other secret about him? Why did the tomb keeper say that it was interesting? Suddenly, a possibility appeared in Su Zimo's mind. The tomb keeper had seen two of their true bodies before. Could the tomb keeper have seen through the Mara mask and seen the face of Wu Dao's original body? Was that why he said that it was interesting now that he saw Qinglian's true body? If the tomb keeper could see through the Mara mask, what was his cultivation realm? What was his background? The more Su Zimo thought about it, the more alarmed he felt. He could not help but feel a sense of trepidation when he was next to the tomb keeper. Su Zimo cupped his hands slightly and circled around the tombstone before continuing forward. Only when he was far away from the Shura temple did he look back. He heaved a sigh of relief when he realized that the tomb keeper was no longer in sight. On the other side, Elder Xian had also arrived at the Shura temple. He stuck his hands in his sleeves and followed Su Zimo from afar. Not long after, when he passed by a tomb, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. A long-browed old monk sat on a tombstone not far away. He was hunched over and looked haggard. Chapter 23-24. This long-browed old monk was only a Xian immortal. His body had a strong aura of old age, as if half of his body was already in the ground. Elder Xian didn't think much of the long-browed old monk, but his instincts told him that this old monk wasn't ordinary. He recalled the divination that the patriarch of the academy had deduced. Elder Xian thought to himself, could it be that the sign of the death door is on this person? Or you? Elder Xian squinted his eyes and asked. A tomb keeper? The long-browed old monk didn't move at all. He didn't even look at Elder Xian. Tomb keeper? Elder Xian smiled coldly. He extended his left hand, which held an octagonal divination plate. His right hand suddenly took out 3 circular metal plates, which were engraved with runes. He held them between his fingers and immersed his consciousness into them. After a while, Elder Xian threw the 3 metal plates into the divination plate. This divination technique was a secret technique of the academy. It was called the 6 lines divination technique. This divination technique couldn't be compared to the mystic divination technique that the patriarch of the academy possessed. However, it was still an extremely powerful divination technique. Elder Xian wanted to deduce some information about this long-browed old monk to find out the truth. However, the 3 metal plates scattered in the divination plate showed a chaotic divination. It was chaotic and disorderly, and nothing could be seen. Elder Xian frowned slightly. He kept the 3 metal plates and cast a spell again, throwing them into the divination plate. It was still chaotic, and the divination was blurry. Crack, crack, crack. At this moment, the 3 metal plates on the divinatory plate suddenly cracked open, and a clear crack appeared on the divinatory plate. Elder Xian's expression changed, and he subconsciously looked up. On the tombstone, the tomb keeper slowly turned his head. His eyes were dark as he looked at Elder Xian. He asked slowly, "What are you doing?" Elder Xian's body trembled. Being stared at by this pair of eyes, he felt as if his mind had been struck by lightning. A strange power descended, and he couldn't resist it at all. Elder Xian opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Not good. Elder Xian activated his primordial spirit and directly released a grotto heaven. He tore through the void and wanted to enter the space tunnel to return to the academy as soon as possible. However, as soon as his paradise was released, it collapsed. Just as Elder Xian entered the spatial tunnel, he was severely injured again. His vision turned black, and he fainted. His body floated up and down in the spatial tunnel, and he gradually moved further and further away from the Shura temple. On the other side, Su Zimo continued to move towards Taiwei Mountain after leaving the Shura temple. He didn't walk far before a warning flashed in his mind, and he suddenly stopped. Activate! A voice sounded from the side. Immediately after, the light of formation runes appeared beneath his feet. An immortal array was activated, and Su Zimo stepped into it. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he carefully sensed it. The immortal formation did not restrict his strength at all. However, this immortal formation blocked off the surroundings, forming a sealed space that was isolated from the outside world. The surrounding crowd moved and gradually surrounded them. Haha. Su Zimo did not have to turn around to look to know that the person behind him was Commandery Prince Yunzhua. Su Zimo, you didn't expect that we would meet again, did you? Commandery Prince Yunzhua said proudly with a smile. He had been waiting for this moment for too long. Su Zimo turned around to take a look. Other than Commandery Prince Yunzhua, there were hundreds of followers. Among them, there were more than 10 executioners, and the rest were high-level heaven immortals whose cultivation levels were far higher than his. You are Su Zimo? A man with ethereal immortal chi walked over from another direction. He carried a long sword on his back, and his expression was calm. He looked at Su Zimo as he approached, and his tone seemed to be disappointed. Who are you? Su Zimo raised his eyebrows and asked. My Taoist name is Guiyuan, and I am here on Senior Sister Mingyao's orders to kill you. There was only one heaven immortal Guiyuan, and no other flying celestial sect disciples followed him. He did not need them either. In the flying celestial sect's inner sect, his combat strength was enough to rank in the top 5. Zither immortal? Su Zimo sneered and said, Fairy Mengyao really can't forget about me. If I have the chance to meet her again, I'll have to thank her properly. Heaven immortal Guiyuan could hear the mockery in Su Zimo's tone, and a cold glint flashed through his eyes as he said indifferently, You won't have the chance. Su Zimo, I'll make you pay with your blood for my younger brother's life today. A man with a gloomy expression walked over from not far away with a murderous aura. He was also alone. That person's face was 70% similar to the dead Pang Yu. Su Zimo thought about it and guessed the background of that person. Someone from the Pang family? Su Zimo asked. You're smart, Pang Yi said slowly. I am Pang Yi, Pang Yu's brother. Su Zimo replied and nodded. That's great. I'll send you on your way today. In the underworld, you brothers can keep each other company. Haha. Pangy was so angry that he laughed and said, "Good, good, good. Suzimo, you're about to die, and you're still so arrogant. I'd like to see who will die first today." "Suzimo, do you still remember me?" A voice sounded. From another direction, a man with an air of nobility was walking over. Behind him were several hundred high-level heavenly immortals. "Fiery Sun Immortal Kingdom, Xie Tianhong." "Of course I remember." Suzimo grinned and said, "I also said that the next time we meet, I'll give you a big gift." "That's right, I'm really looking forward to it." Xie Tianhong also smiled and said, "Only, I don't know if you'll like the gift today." "Good that you're all here. Saves me the trouble of looking for you one by one." Suzimo looked around and said loudly, "Who else is there? Step forward and let me see." "Junior brother Su, how have you been?" Another voice sounded. Tang Peng walked out from the depths of the immortal formation and slowly appeared with a cold smile on his face. Seeing Tang Peng, Suzimo was not surprised. "Are you the only one?" Suzimo asked again. Tang Peng shrugged and said, "Of course I'm enough." "What a pity." Suzimo shook his head. Duke Yuanzhua and the others looked at each other and felt a little strange. Suzimo's reaction was completely different from what they had expected. He did not panic, did not fear, did not beg for mercy, and did not even try to escape. Suzimo was too calm. Duke Yuanzhua was worried, but on second thought, he still had a backup plan. Even if something went wrong, he could make up for it. Today, Suzimo would definitely die. "You've mobilized so many high-level heaven immortals. Why did you set up this immortal formation?" Suzimo asked calmly. Duke Yuanzhua said, "This immortal formation can block out divine sense. Even if someone passes by, they won't notice anything." "Suzimo, don't expect anyone to come and save you." Duke Yuanzhua and the others had planned for a long time for this moment. Naturally, they would not make any mistakes. They had to nip all the possible changes in the bud. Chapter 23-25. Pangy said coldly, "Suzimo, don't even think about it. Even your senior brother, a stage 9 heaven immortal, was crippled by us." At the mention of Yang Ruoxu, Suzimo's eyes turned even colder. He stared at Tang Peng and said slowly, "Colluding with outsiders to attack a cultivator from the same sect, you deserve to die." Tang Peng felt his hair stand on end from Suzimo's stare. Others did not know Suzimo's identity, but Tang Peng knew that Suzimo had been accepted as an in-name disciple by the patriarch of the academy. His status was honorable. If Suzimo were to return to the academy alive, he would not be able to escape the punishment of the academy's rules. He would definitely die. Moreover, he had seen Suzimo forming the 10th step of the Tao Heart Ladder with his own eyes. It was too shocking. Although Suzimo was only a stage 2 heaven immortal, Tang Peng was not confident and was worried that something might happen. Tang Peng swallowed his saliva and gritted his teeth. "Everyone, don't talk nonsense with him. Let's cripple his cultivation first and then torture him slowly." "Do it," Xie Tianhong said in a low voice. As soon as he said that, Duke Yuanzhua, Gui Yuan, Pang Yi and Xie Tianhong attacked at the same time. The hundreds of heaven immortal experts behind Duke Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong did not make a move. The four of them had agreed that there was no need for so many of them to attack together against Suzimo. With so many heaven immortal experts attacking at the same time, each of them would cast a spell or a dharma treasure. If they were not careful, Suzimo might be killed. The four of them wanted to capture Suzimo alive, cripple his cultivation and torture him. To Xie Tianhong, if he could bring Suzimo to zither immortal Mengyao alive, she would definitely be happier. As for the hundreds of heaven immortal experts behind them, it was just a precaution. After all, the two of them were dukes of celestial kingdoms. It was not difficult for them to mobilize hundreds of heaven immortal experts. "All of you must die." Suzimo's expression was icy cold. His eyes were like lightning and the space between his eyebrows shimmered. An ancient bronze square cauldron slowly flew out. The four walls of the cauldron were carved with lifelike images of living beings. This cauldron again? Commandery Prince Yuanzhua narrowed his eyes. When Feng Tian escaped from Absolute Thunder City, he relied on this bronze square cauldron to kill everyone and take back his natal spiritual treasure. Back then, this bronze square cauldron was still somewhat dilapidated, and its walls were covered with cracks. Now, this bronze square cauldron looked completely undamaged. Hell-suppressing cauldron. Duke Yuanzhua, Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan, Pang Yi, and Xie Tianhong halted their attacks as they stared at the patterns on the walls of the prison-suppressing cauldron. The 4 cauldron walls corresponded to 4 people. Everyone saw a different picture of a living being. But every single living being on the walls of the cauldron emitted an aura that came from the primitive universe. It was ancient, mysterious, and contained boundless pressure. This is... Xie Tianhong stared at the living being that resembled a spirit turtle on the walls of the cauldron not far away. The living being carried a turtle shell on its back and stepped on the sea with 4 legs. However, it had 2 heads, resembling a turtle and a snake coiling together. Pissed, Xie Tianhong sucked in a breath of cold air. The black tortoise sacred spirit. A thought flashed through his mind. He did not know what the black tortoise pattern on the walls of the cauldron meant. However, any weapon or dharma treasure that was related to the black tortoise would definitely possess unimaginable power. Retreat. Xie Tianhong was extremely cautious and made a prompt decision. Among the 4 of them, he was the first to retreat. On the other side, Duke Yuanzhua had witnessed the terror of the prison-suppressing cauldron and was wary to begin with. Right now, he stared at the divine dragon on the walls of the cauldron and felt his heart skip a beat as well. Instinctively, he slowed down. As for Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan and Pang Yi, they had never fought with Su Zimo before and knew nothing about him, let alone what that bronze square cauldron was. Both of them noticed that Xie Tianhong had retreated and Duke Yuanzhua had slowed down. However, they could not react in time. At that moment, the 4 sacred spirits on the walls of the prison-suppressing cauldron suddenly opened their eyes and shot out rays of divine light. The prison-suppressing cauldron had devoured several treasures in the 9th heaven and had been repaired. The 4 sacred spirits had been replenished and had all awakened. Screech. The 4 sacred spirits emerged from the prison-suppressing cauldron and let out a series of roars. Some were loud, some were ferocious, some were sharp, and some were heavy. Each of the 4 saint souls had a combat prowess comparable to a top-notch Tier 9 heavenly immortal. Previously, on the Dragon Abyss planet, the Vermilion Bird Sacred Spirit had killed a top-tier heavenly immortal, Meiji. Now that the prison-suppressing cauldron had been repaired, the 4 sacred spirits were even more powerful than before. The Vermilion Bird Sacred Spirit flew out from the prison-suppressing cauldron. Its entire body was crimson red and flapping its wings. Crimson flames flowed on its body like lava and dripped down continuously. Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan was facing the wall of the prison-suppressing cauldron and was caught off guard by this sudden change. The Vermilion Bird Sacred Spirit's eyes contained an unparalleled majesty. It looked at Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan as if he was an ant. With a slight distraction, the Vermilion Bird Sacred Spirit had already pounced on Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan. The boiling heat wave almost burned through his body. His body burned with flames from the inside out. Ah! Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan screamed as his life was hanging by a thread. He frantically activated his primordial spirit and released a peerless divine ability to protect himself and escape from this place. However, his peerless divine ability had just been formed when it was completely burned away by the flames on the Vermilion Bird Sacred Spirit's body. This was the Vermilion Bird Sacred Flame, which was even more powerful than the Nanmingli fire. The Vermilion Bird Sacred Spirit swept past Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan's body. It did not even make a move. What was left of Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan was a pile of ashes that scattered with the wind. Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan had been burned to ashes. Pang Yi's situation was not much better than Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan's. He was not prepared at all. He saw a tiger with long white fur charging out from the wall of the prison-suppressing cauldron. It was surrounded by a murderous aura. It was so dense that it was almost tangible. The white tiger sacred spirit was located in the west. It specialized in killing. Every strand of hair on the white tiger's sacred spirit's body contained an unparalleled killing intent. It could split the Milky Way and destroy the stars. Being stared at by the white tiger's sacred spirit, Pang Yi felt his limbs go cold. His body was extremely stiff, and he seemed to have lost the ability to escape. Pang Yi was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly crushed the jade pendant on his waist. The jade pendant broke, and a powerful force burst out, enveloping him and forming a protective barrier. At this moment, the white tiger's sacred spirit pounced in front of him. Rip! An ear-piercing sound rang out. Pang Yi's pupils shrank. He saw that the protective barrier around him had been torn apart by the white tiger's sacred spirit. The white tiger's sacred spirit charged forward. Its tiger claws slammed down, and a sharp light flashed. Pang Yi's body was torn into pieces by the huge tiger claws. His primordial spirit was destroyed, and he died on the spot. Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan and Pang Yi were unlucky. Among the 4 sacred spirits, the vermilion bird sacred spirit and the white tiger sacred spirit's attacks were the most ferocious. In addition, the 2 of them were unprepared. They did not expect Su Zimo to be able to threaten them. In the blink of an eye, they died on the spot. Chapter 23-26. On the other side, the black tortoise holy soul rushed out of the prison-suppressing cauldron, and it was as if a tsunami was forming under its body. Its body seemed huge and clumsy, but when it stepped on the waves, its speed was shocking as it rushed towards Xie Tianhong aggressively. Xie Tianhong was the first to realize that something was wrong and retreated in advance. Therefore, his reaction time was slightly longer than the other 3. When the black tortoise saint's soul rushed out, he had already condensed a peerless sacred art and attacked it. Boom! This supreme superpower hit the black tortoise holy soul. The black tortoise holy soul was surprised. Its tortoise shell emitted rays of light and dissolved the power of this supreme superpower. However, Xie Tianhong also took the opportunity to retreat. The hundreds of Heaven Immortal Realm experts behind him rushed forward and attacked the Black Tortoise Holy Soul with their supreme superpower and weapons. The Black Tortoise Holy Soul's offensive power was not too strong, but its defense was the best among the 4 Holy Souls. The Black Tortoise Holy Soul roared into the sky, and huge waves rose behind it. The cracks on its tortoise shell shone brightly. Many superpower and Dharma treasures passed through the huge waves, and their power was greatly reduced. Finally, they landed on the tortoise shell of the Black Tortoise Holy Soul, and the damage to it was minimized. Duke Yuanzhua was not as decisive as Xie Tianhong. He retreated immediately. However, he still slowed down his footsteps and was on high alert. Therefore, when the Green Dragon Holy Soul opened its eyes, he knew that something was wrong. As he retreated, he formed a secret superpower and attacked in front of him. Boom! 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 The green dragon rushed out at an extremely fast speed and smashed several of Duke Yuanzhua's secret superpower to pieces. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Duke Yuanzhua. It was too powerful. Duke Yuanzhua had already taken out a huge shield and blocked in front of him. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The Azure Dragon Saint's soul slammed heavily into the shield, and a huge force passed through the shield and sent Duke Yuanzhua flying. Blarg! Duke Yuanzhua spat out a mouthful of blood and looked dispirited. Although he was injured, he was much better than Heaven Immortal Ge Yuan and Pang Yi. At least he was still alive. To a level 9 Heavenly Immortal, such an injury was nothing much. With this slight delay, the hundreds of Heaven Immortal Realm experts behind Duke Yuanzhua also charged forward and made their moves. Roar! The Azure Dragon Holy Soul roared at the sky, its eyes burning with fury. It seemed to be furious that it did not manage to kill Commandery Prince Yuanzhua. He spiraled straight up and rose up. His huge and slender dragon body was covered with tight and hard green scales. His dragon claws were sharp and flashed with cold light. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the clouds. Hundreds of Heavenly Immortal experts' divine abilities and magic treasures all failed. Suddenly, an incomparably thick and solid dragon tail swung out from the clouds. It carried with it a thunderous momentum that could sweep away thousands of troops. It stirred up a gust of wind and instantly descended. Over 200 heavenly immortals from the great Gene Immortal Empire couldn't dodge in time and were swept by the tail of the Azure Dragon. Their bodies exploded, turning into clouds of blood mist. Their primordial spirits were destroyed on the spot by the dragon tail. The two executioners were wearing heavy armor, but they couldn't withstand the power of the Azure Dragon tail. Their armor was shattered, and the fragments entered their bodies. They died. When the dragon tail swept across the void, a blood-red area appeared. Not a single living person was left alive. The commandery Prince Yuanzhua, Xie Tianhong, Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan, and Pang Yi had joined forces. But now, they were completely defeated by the four holy souls. The four holy souls were killing in all directions. Su Zimo knew that he might be ambushed, but he still dared to come alone. The four holy souls in the prison-suppressing cauldron were his trump cards. Unless a true immortal appeared, the four holy souls could kill everyone in this celestial formation. Under the control of Su Zimo, the white tiger holy soul that killed Pang directly targeted Tang Peng, who was not far away. Tang Peng was frightened by the scene in front of him. They were still in high spirits a moment ago, but in the blink of an eye, they were killed and their corpses were scattered everywhere. Even Heavenly Immortal Ge Yuan and Pang Yi were killed on the spot. Suddenly, Tang Peng felt a chill rise from the bottom of his heart, and a chill ran down his back. Oh no! I've been targeted! Tang Peng was shocked. After all, he was a disciple of the academy. His reaction was very fast. He activated his qi and turned into a ray of light, leaving the place in an instant. Tang Peng had once obtained a great opportunity and was able to change his blood. A trace of rock blood flowed in his body. In the inner sect of the academy, Tang Peng was known as the best movement technique. Just as he left the place, a huge tiger claw came down from the sky. If he had been a little slower, he would have been torn to pieces by this tiger claw. Roar! The white tiger stared at Tang Peng, roared, and chased after him again. Tang Peng's heart trembled. Seeing Pang Yi die, he did not dare to fight the white tiger head-on. He turned and ran. However, there was a celestial formation around him. Tang Peng did not have the chance to leave even if he wanted to. He could only run wildly on the battlefield, not daring to relax at all. Tang Peng, you can't escape. At this moment, Su Zimo's voice sounded in his ears. Screech. Then, a phoenix cry sounded. In front of him, a sea of red flames surged, blocking Tang Peng's path. In the sea of flames, the vermilion bird Holy Spirit appeared, flapping its red wings. It stared at Tang Peng without any emotion in its eyes. Roar! Behind Tang Peng, the white tiger roared. There was a vermilion bird in front of him, and a white tiger chasing after him. In order to kill Tang Peng, Su Zimo had let the two holy souls work together. It showed his determination. Junior brother Su. No, senior brother Su. Tang Peng forced a smile and begged for mercy. I was blinded by greed and made such a big mistake. Please spare my life on account of our friendship. Tang Peng's voice was trembling. No matter how fast his movement technique was, it was too far away from a true rock. Not to mention the two holy souls working together, the vermilion bird Holy Spirit alone could kill him. He would not be able to escape. What kind of camaraderie do we have? Su Zimo scoffed coldly with a mocking expression. Senior brother Su, I can make a Dao oath. I promise. Tang Peng was about to say something, but before he could finish, he suddenly disappeared from the spot. Peerless mystique, teleportation. When Tang Peng reappeared, he was already behind Su Zimo. Don't move. Tang Peng stepped forward and placed his hand on Su Zimo's head. Let me out or I'll kill you right now. As soon as he finished speaking, he realized that something was wrong. Although the person he had grabbed had his back facing him, it was not Su Zimo. It was a lifeless corpse. Shadow shift. The moment he released his teleportation, Su Zimo released fulgurating shadows and swapped positions with a corpse not far away. By the time Tang Peng realized this, it was already too late. He saw the mocking smile on Su Zimo's face, the flames of the vermilion bird Holy Spirit, and the claws of the white tiger Holy Spirit. Chapter 23-27. On Taiwei Mountain, two people stood side by side, looking at the entrance of Avicii from afar. They did not rush forward. One of them was true immortal Mirror Moon of the Dajin Celestial Nation, the governor of Azure Cloud County. She had accompanied Duke Yuanzhua to the Pure Land. The other person was the old man who was driving Xie Tianhong's carriage. He looked ordinary and short, but he was also a perfected immortal. The two of them came to ensure that nothing would go wrong. Of course, in their opinion, there would be no accidents if the four forces joined forces to deal with Su Zimo. Therefore, they did not follow Duke Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong. Instead, they came to Taiwei Mountain to explore the legendary Avicii. After this, do you have any plans to go down and explore? True immortal Mirror Moon suddenly asked. This is the most dangerous forbidden area in history. My old life can't withstand such torture. As the old man said that, a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He was eager to try. He did not have much lifespan left. In Avicii, there were countless treasures and inheritances. He might be able to find some fortuitous encounter that could extend his lifespan. Or he might be able to break through to the next level. Avicii was the most well-preserved ruin since ancient times. There were countless treasures in it. It would be a lie to say that he was not tempted. This time, the old man had followed Xie Tianhong here for his own selfish reasons. He did not have much lifespan left. He might as well take a gamble and enter Avicii to try his luck. True immortal Mirror Moon seemed to have seen through the old man's insincerity. She smiled and said, "Brother Yulong, you must be joking. Back then, you used the Yulong celestial whip to dominate the divine firmament's celestial realm. I was just a junior when you were invincible." The old man who was driving Xie Tianhong's carriage was also a top-perfected immortal when he was young. However, he was now in his twilight years and his combat strength had weakened. Suddenly, true immortal Mirror Moon's expression changed. She swept her hand across her storage bag and took out a broken soul slip. These soul slips were condensed by the hundreds of heaven immortals around Duke Yuanzhua. The broken soul slips meant that these people were dead. At the same time, true immortal Yulong also frowned and took out a pile of broken soul slips from his storage bag. Something has happened. The two true immortals' hearts trembled. Without hesitation, they turned around and sped towards the Grand Taiwei Mountain. This battle was concealed by the immortal formations set up by the four forces. No matter how big the commotion inside was, the people outside would not be able to sense it. Before long, the two true immortals arrived in front of the immortal formation. True immortal Mirror Moon's hands continuously formed hand seals and broke open a gap in the immortal formation. She entered with true immortal Imperial Dragon, and when they saw the scene before them, their expressions changed greatly. It was too tragic. The combined forces of the four forces were utterly defeated by the four gigantic beings roaring and dancing in midair. Corpses littered the ground. Celestial Returner, Pang Yi, and Tang Peng had perished long ago. More than half of the hundreds of celestial immortals that Commandery Prince Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong had brought with them had been killed. Although the remaining celestial immortals were trying their best to resist, it was obvious that they could not hold on any longer and could collapse at any time. The only thing that made the two true immortals feel slightly relieved was that Duke Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong were still alive. Duke Yuanzhua seemed to be injured, but it was not a big deal. However, his face was pale and his expression was fearful. It seemed like he had suffered a great shock. True immortal Mirror Moon and true immortal Imperial Dragon entered the immortal formation. They did not attack immediately because they were also intimidated by the four saint souls in midair. Although the four saint souls did not have flesh and blood and could only be considered as primordial spirits, the aura that they emitted was no different from that of a real saint beast. Four saint beasts? How is this possible? The two true immortals felt their hearts tremble. If the four saint beasts were here, they would also have to escape from this place. Even if they had the ability to kill the four saint beasts, they would not dare to do so. True immortal Imperial Dragon reacted quickly and said seriously, These are not the real saint beasts. They do not have flesh and blood, and they do not have flesh and blood. They are only in the form of souls. True immortal Mirror Moon also quickly discovered that although the aura of the 4 saint souls was terrifying, the power that they unleashed was not enough to threaten them. Swoosh. True immortal Imperial Dragon suddenly took out a long whip and lashed it at the white tiger that was in the midst of a massacre not far away. The long whip was weak at first, but when True Yuan poured into it, it instantly became incomparably hard. Like a long spear, it directly pierced through the white tiger saint's soul. The white tiger saint's soul was severely injured and let out a sorrowful roar. Although the 4 saint souls had defeated a group of heavenly immortals in this battle, they had also expended a lot of energy. After suffering such a heavy injury, the white tiger saint soul's light quickly dimmed and turned into a ray of light that entered the prison's suppressing cauldron in Su Zimo's sea of consciousness and fell into a deep sleep. On the other side, True Immortal Mirror Moon also took out an ancient bronze mirror and activated her Dao fruit to gather True Yuan. A ray of light shone down from the ancient bronze mirror and enveloped the vermilion bird saint soul. It clashed with the power of the vermilion bird saint fire, creating a sizzling sound. The vermilion bird saint's soul could not withstand it and its light dimmed. No matter how strong the 4 saint souls were, they had not broken through to the true self realm. The 4 saint souls could not withstand the power of a true immortal. Mirror Moon, quickly kill Su Zimo. Seeing that True Immortal Mirror Moon and True Immortal Mirror Moon had arrived in time, Duke Yuanzhua quickly shouted and hid in the crowd, pointing at Su Zimo who was not far away. True Immortal Mirror Moon's gaze turned and locked onto Su Zimo. Young man, I have to admit that I made a mistake back then. True Immortal Mirror Moon did not expect that the cultivator from the lower world that she had accidentally brought out from the elemental spirit mine would turn the Dajin celestial nation upside down. This young man had made a name for himself in the divine firmament celestial realm. Back then, I was the one who noticed you and brought you out of that dark elemental spirit mine. True Immortal Mirror Moon said slowly, today, you will die in my hands. This is karma. As soon as she finished speaking, the ancient bronze mirror in the air changed direction and aimed at Su Zimo. It shone directly at him. Even the vermilion bird saint's soul could not withstand the power of the ancient bronze mirror. Su Zimo was only a stage 2 divine immortal and could not resist the power of the ancient bronze mirror. However, he reacted quickly. When he saw that True Immortal Mirror Moon and True Immortal Yulong had arrived, he realized that it would be difficult for him to kill the remaining people with just the 4 saint souls. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He already had a plan. Just as True Immortal Mirror Moon was about to attack, he activated his divine will. The black tortoise saint's soul stepped on the sea and blocked in front of him. The huge tortoise shell emitted rays of dazzling light and resisted the ancient bronze mirror in the air. On the other side, True Immortal Yulong waved his long whip and wrapped it around the Azure Dragon saint's soul. The Yulong Immortal Whip was made from the tendons of a divine dragon. That was why it had the power of a dragon. However, the dragon in front of him was no ordinary divine dragon. It was one of the 4 saint spirits, the Azure Dragon. No matter how strong the Yulong Immortal Whip was, it could not trap the Azure Dragon. The Azure Dragon saint's soul roared at the sky and instantly broke free from the Yulong Immortal Whip's restraint. It did not attack the 2 true immortals. Instead, it slammed into the formation core of the immortal formation. Chapter 23-28. He's trying to break the formation and escape. Xie Tianhong yelled when he noticed the Azure Dragon Saint's soul's action. As soon as he finished his words, the Azure Dragon Saint's soul collided with the formation core, resulting in a deafening explosion. The immortal formation shook violently, as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. This was where just now True Immortal Mirror Moon and True Immortal Yulong had entered. The immortal formation had just closed and was at its weakest point. Now the Azure Dragon Saint's soul had collided with it. The Azure Dragon Saint's soul turned into a ray of light and entered Su Zimo's divine sense. At the same time, the formation core was destroyed. The opportunity was fleeting. With two true immortals eyeing him, it would be difficult for Su Zimo to escape once he was locked on by them. Therefore, the moment the formation was dispelled, Su Zimo did not hold back and released a teleportation technique to escape the range of the immortal formation. He then unleashed the 9 true dragon flashes. After reaching the second layer of the heavenly origin realm, Su Zimo could teleport 7 times in a row and appear above the strait. Bang! 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 The attacks of the 2 true immortals chased after him, but they all missed. Su Zimo unleashed his innate ability as a pair of giant pring wings appeared behind him. He then turned into a ray of golden light and sped toward the Taiwei mountain. Ha ha! Su Zimo's laughter could be heard. Do you really think you can kill me with such little tricks? Xie Tianhong's expression darkened as he heard Su Zimo's laughter. He felt that it was extremely irritating. Without waiting for him to speak, the 2 true immortals immediately chased after Su Zimo. The Duke of Yuanzhua and Xie Tianhong led the remaining 400 Heaven Immortal Realm experts and chased after Qin Nan. With the help of the Peng Wings, Su Zimo's speed was extremely fast. Even the 2 true immortals could not catch up to him in a short period of time. Not long after, Su Zimo arrived at the peak of the Taiwei mountain. He strode towards the entrance of the Avicii Hell and stood at the edge of the dark and gloomy abyss. He turned to look at the people who were chasing after him and sneered. If you want to kill me, then come to Avicii. With that, Su Zimo leaped into the abyss of Hell's Gate. By the time the 2 true immortals arrived, it was already too late. They could only see Su Zimo's falling figure. The 2 true immortals looked at each other and saw the fear in each other's eyes. Given their cultivation, they wouldn't dare to be so decisive in the face of a dangerous place like the Avicii Hell. Unexpectedly, this low-level heaven immortal actually jumped down directly. Chase after them. Xie Tianhong's expression was one of determination as he strode toward the entrance of hell. Your Highness, be careful. True Immortal Yulong frowned slightly and said in a deep voice, Why don't I replace Your Highness and explore the Avicii Hell? Your Highness is priceless and it's not good for you to take the risk. It's fine. Xie Tianhong waved his hand and said, This kid has provoked me time and time again. I must take him down personally. Moreover, since I'm here, this might be my fortuitous encounter. In this world, almost everyone would subconsciously think that they were favored by the heavens and would be accompanied by countless fortuitous encounters. For someone like Xie Tianhong, it was even more likely that he would feel that way. True Immortal Yulong wanted to persuade him again, but Xie Tianhong said, You don't have to worry. I have the teleportation jade pendant that my father gave me. If I encounter danger that I can't handle, I can crush this jade pendant and leave immediately. True Immortal Yulong thought about it. Xie Tianhong indeed didn't have to worry about anything with the teleportation jade pendant. He didn't stop him and jumped down first. Xie Tianhong and the Heaven Immortals behind him jumped down as well. Mirror Moon, take my men and go down to take a look. Join forces with Xie Tianhong and the others. This time, we can't let Su Zimo escape. Duke Yuanzhua said in a deep voice. All right. True Immortal Mirror Moon agreed without much hesitation. He came this time because he wanted to take a look at the Avicii Hell. Going down now was exactly what he wanted. Your Highness. True Immortal Mirror Moon asked. Duke Yuanzhua hesitated for a while and said, I'm not going down. I'll wait for your triumphant return on the Grand Taiwei Mountain. The unforeseen event this time had truly frightened him. Previously, he had chased after Su Zimo several times and attacked Su Zimo's trap. Although he failed repeatedly, he didn't feel threatened. This time, he was almost killed by the 4 Saint Souls. All right. True Immortal Mirror Moon said, Your Highness, take care. Everyone follow me. With that, True Immortal Mirror Moon also jumped into the Avicii Hell. Apart from them, there were also many cultivators who had arrived and rushed into the Avicii Hell. This gate of hell was like the mouth of a wild ancient beast, waiting for countless prey to come to its door. Duke Yuanzhua looked down at the abyss and couldn't help but shiver. He looked wary and turned to the Grand Taiwei Mountain. After Su Zimo fell into the Avicii Hell, He realized that it was a world of its own and seemed to nurture different laws. He couldn't use his divine sense. In other words, he couldn't use any secret techniques in the Avicii Hell. After Wu Dao's original body entered the Avicii Hell, he lost contact with Qinglian's original body. Therefore, Qinglian's original body didn't know anything about the situation in the Avicii Hell. Fortunately, he had the prison-suppressing cauldron in his sea of consciousness and cultivated the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, so he could be considered the successor of the Avicii Emperor. Even if there were any dangers in the Avicii Hell, it shouldn't be much of a threat to him. Above his head, figures jumped down one after another. Su Zimo sneered. He deliberately slowed down to lure Duke Yunzhua, Xie Tianhong, and the others to chase after him. With the 4 Saint Souls, he couldn't catch them all in one go. But this Avicii Hell might become their grave. After an unknown period of time, Su Zimo finally landed on the ground and looked around. The place he was in was like a gloomy and terrifying karst cave. There were many strange black stones, steep and sharp. The terrain here was complicated. He could see long corridors and dirty black rivers. There were also layers of terraced fields and crisscrossed paths. There were also corals formed by black stones, stone towers, and stone waterfalls. There were no traces of carvings. Su Zimo didn't sense any signs of life here. He didn't dare to be careless. He looked around and walked in a direction. After a few steps, he saw a figure lying on the ground not far away. Su Zimo walked closer to take a look. This person was wearing a monk's robe. His flesh and blood were well preserved. It was obvious that he had died not long ago. He was the monk who had entered the Avicii Hell this time. There were no wounds on this monk's body, but his face was purple and he looked terrified. Before he died, he seemed to have suffered great pain and fear. Su Zimo didn't dare to touch this person's corpse. He circled around him and continued forward. Before long, he caught sight of another cultivator. This cultivator died in the same way as the monk from before. However, this person held a dermic treasure in his hands. There were 6 burn marks on it, as though it was struck by lightning. A spirit channeling dermic treasure. This person could be a perfected immortal. Su Zimo was shocked. Those burn marks were left behind when a cultivator entered the true self realm and received a heavenly tribulation to refine their dermic treasures. If there were 9 burn marks, it could be called a pure yang spirit treasure. But now, not only was this perfected immortal dead, the dermic treasure had dimmed and was crippled. Chapter 23-29. If even perfected immortals could die here, it was clear that there was indeed an unknown and terrifying power within the Avicii Hell. The Avicii Hell spanned eras and countless years had passed. However, the laws of this space were still intact. That was enough to show how terrifying this place was. It was no wonder why Wu Dao's true body lost contact with Qinglian's true body the moment he entered the Avicii Hell. After Su Zimo entered the Avicii Hell, he tried to communicate with Wu Dao's true body. However, he could not sense anything. It was as though Wu Dao's true body had already vanished from the world. The only thing he could be sure of was that Wu Dao's true body was not dead yet. The 2 true bodies were telepathically connected. If Wu Dao's true body died, Qinglian's true body would definitely sense it. Right then, figures descended from the skies one after another. It was true immortal Yulong, Xie Tianhong and the others who arrived in pursuit. Over there. After Xie Tianhong entered the Avicii Hell, the first thing he saw was Su Zimo. He pointed at the latter and hollered, "Chase after him." "Your Highness, watch out." True immortal Yulong had a grim expression as he said in a deep voice, "One cannot use the power of their essence spirit in the Avicii Hell." True immortal Yulong was secretly shocked when he noticed that. If one could not use their essence spirits, it meant that they could not release mystic skills or spirit consciousness. Their perception of danger in the surroundings would be lowered to the lowest as well. "It's fine." With the teleportation jade badge, Xie Tianhong was confident and analyzed calmly. Since everyone can't use their essence spirits, there's no difference. It's just a matter of qi blood and physique. You're a perfected immortal and have quintessential essence to temper your physique. That lad is no match for you. True immortal Yulong remained silent. He was not worried about Su Zimo. Anything could be more dangerous than Su Zimo in the Avicii hell. That was because he had already caught sight of a fallen perfected immortal monk not far away. At the same time, true immortal Mirror Moon descended with a group of heavenly immortals from the great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Let's chase after him first. True immortal Mirror Moon's eyes flashed and the corners of her mouth curled up. With this kid leading the way, even if we run into any danger, he will be the first to face it. Such an opportunity is hard to come by. Xie Tianhong's eyes lit up. Exactly. Then, the two true immortals and Xie Tianhong led more than 400 heavenly immortals to chase after Su Zimo. Su Zimo knew nothing about the terrain and environment of the Avicii hell. He could only continue forward, crossing mountains and rivers as he came across them. After running for about an hour, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks and stared at the ground on both sides, focusing his gaze. Purple light could be vaguely seen in the crevices of the rocks on both sides. It was twisting slightly and moving at an extremely fast speed, heading straight for him. The purple light was as thin as a cow's hair and seemed to be some kind of snake. If one did not pay attention, it would be difficult to detect it in this dark environment. Along the way, Su Zimo saw many cultivators who had died recently. All of them died in a strange and gruesome manner. Their faces were purple and there were no other wounds on their bodies. Now that he thought about it, it was highly likely that these cultivators had died in the hands of these purple snakes. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. Just as he was about to attack, the purple snakes seemed to have sensed great fear. Before they could reach Su Zimo, they all retreated and fled in all directions crazily. Su Zimo was stunned for a moment before he understood what was going on. It was most likely because of the prison's suppressing cauldron. Chapter 23:30. This was the Avicii hell. There were countless cultivators who barged in and Su Zimo was still being hunted down by two perfected immortals. He did not have the time to save someone he did not know. However, that voice reminded him of someone he had never met before. After pausing for a moment, Su Zimo changed his direction and followed the voice. After a few steps, a tunnel appeared before him that connected the mountain peak. After Su Zimo passed through the tunnel, the environment before him changed drastically once more. Before him was a boundless desert filled with corpses and corpses. There were many cultivators whose flesh was still intact. It was clear that they had just died not long ago. Unlike the situation in the cave behind him, the corpses of these cultivators were swollen and their skin was greenish-black. They emitted a foul stench and pus flowed beneath their bodies. Not far away, a few black scorpions that were half the height of a human surrounded a plain-clothed woman. Their tails were raised high and shone with a dark light. They were probing continuously and were ready to attack at any moment. As for the plain-clothed woman, she sat on the ground limply, as though she could not move. She held a jade brush in her hands and pointed it at the black scorpions around her. Even in such an environment, the plain-clothed woman did not lose her composure, wretched or embarrassed. Su Zimo felt that the plain-clothed woman's appearance was extremely beautiful and seemed familiar. However, he knew that he had definitely not seen this person before. No matter what, he had to save this plain-clothed woman. Su Zimo strode towards the plain-clothed woman. The black scorpions turned around and wanted to attack Su Zimo. But soon, these black scorpions sensed something. Their expressions were filled with fear as they scattered in all directions. Very soon, they drilled into the desert and disappeared. "It's you?" The plain-clothed woman was shocked when she saw Su Zimo. "Fellow Taoist, you've seen me before?" Su Zimo approached and asked with a smile. The plain-clothed woman nodded gently and did not hide anything. "We've met once." Pausing for a moment, the plain-clothed woman asked curiously, "However, you shouldn't have seen me before." Su Zimo said, "Indeed, I've never seen you before. However, I remember your voice." "Bullying the weak, how shameless." Su Zimo looked at the plain-clothed woman and suddenly spoke. The plain-clothed woman suddenly remembered what had happened during the immortal sex general selection. At that time, Duke Yuanzhua had brought true immortal Mirror Moon and the others to the immortal sex general election to take Su Zimo away. In the end, true immortal Mirror Moon didn't even care about her status as a true immortal and attacked Su Zimo. At that time, she was the one who secretly took action and neutralized true immortal Mirror Moon's attack. At the same time, she also mocked true immortal Mirror Moon with those words. "I didn't expect you to still remember this." The plain-clothed woman smiled, feeling a little happy. Firstly, she was out of danger. Moreover, she knew that with Su Zimo by her side, she ought to not encounter any danger in the Avicii Hell. Secondly, she had only casually mentioned it back then. She didn't expect that this scholarly young man would remember it for so long. In the eyes of the plain-clothed woman, Su Zimo had always been the same as Yun Ting. He was young and full of vigor, just like a teenager. "I remember," Su Zimo said, "back then if it wasn't for you, I would have died. I wouldn't have had the chance to enter Qiankuan Academy and cultivate until now." At the mention of this, the plain-clothed woman was a little ashamed. She shook her head and said, "It's all thanks to Yang Ruoxu and Fairy Mo Qin that you were able to enter Qiankuan Academy." At that time, although she had appeared and intimidated true immortal Mirror Moon, Qin immortal Meng Yao had arrived later. She was apprehensive and didn't continue to insist on confronting Qin immortal Meng Yao. After all, she was the princess of the Zixuan immortal kingdom. It was too irrational for her to stand out and fight with Qin immortal Meng Yao because of a stranger like Su Zimo. That was why Yang Ruoxu had withstood the pressure from Qin immortal Meng Yao and waited for painting immortal Mo Qin to arrive. Su Zimo said, "We don't know each other. I'm already very grateful that you helped me." At this moment, the sound of chaotic footsteps could be heard from the tunnel behind him. True immortal Yulong, true immortal Mirror Moon, Xie Tianhong, and the others were still lingering and chasing after them. This time round, there were only a dozen of them left. After this long journey, the remaining cultivators, including the two true immortals, had a hint of fear in their eyes. "Fellow Taoist, can you still move?" Su Zimo asked. "I'm being chased by my enemies. I have to leave quickly." "I can't move." The plain-clothed woman shook her head slightly and pointed to her legs. "My legs were stung by the venomous scorpion. Although I managed to suppress the venomous qi temporarily, I can't move my legs. Almost all the cultivators in hell would die after being stung by a venomous scorpion." The fact that the plain-clothed woman could suppress the venomous qi temporarily meant that she wasn't weak either. "Fellow Taoist, this is an emergency. I'll carry you out of here first before making any plans." Su Zimo was extremely decisive. He took a step forward and helped the plain-clothed woman up on his back without any explanation. Then he sprinted away. The plain-clothed woman was stunned the entire time. By the time she reacted, she was already on Su Zimo's back. She had not expected Su Zimo to be so domineering as to carry her and run without even asking her. Actually, Su Zimo did not think too much about it either. He only knew that if he left the plain-clothed woman on the spot, the venomous scorpions would hunt her down and kill her after he left. The plain-clothed woman's life could only be saved if she followed him. Of course, it was not appropriate for him to say that since it involved the secret of the Hell Suppression Cauldron. However, after Su Zimo carried the plain-clothed woman on his back, he realized that he was being a little rude. There were only a few layers of clothes between their bodies, and it was inevitable that there would be some friction as they ran. The plain-clothed woman blushed slightly and placed her hands on Su Zimo's shoulders, trying her best to prop herself up. Su Zimo did not say anything and merely ran with his head down. The two of them had a tacit understanding and remained silent about the matter, pretending that nothing happened. There was no way Su Zimo could throw the plain-clothed woman down. Xie Tianhong and the others had just arrived and were panting from exhaustion. Before they could catch their breaths, they saw Su Zimo carrying a woman on his back and running away. Xie Tianhong was so angry that he almost fainted. Chase after him. The two perfected immortals had just caught their breaths when they saw a few black scorpions darting through the desert not far away, eyeing them covetously. None of them dared to stop and could only bite the bullet and continue chasing after Su Zimo. Just now, that woman seems to be one of the 4 fairies, the Book Immortal. True Immortal Mirror Moon frowned. Book Immortal? Xiaodanhong snapped back to his senses and said, yes, that's her. The Book Immortal is the princess of the Xian Immortal Kingdom. If I step in, she should give me some face and stand on our side. Fellow cultivator, are you one of the 4 fairies, the Book Immortal, Yunju? Xia Tianhong shouted as he ran. I am the Duke of the Flaming Sun Immortal Kingdom's Lingsha County, Xia Tianhong. We met at the Divine Firmament meeting before. There was no reply. Fairy Yunju, the person under you is my greatest enemy. Please take action and subdue him. I will be eternally grateful and will reward you handsomely. Xia Tianhong yelled again. There was still no reply. Xia Tianhong's face turned red and he gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to shout again, True Immortal Yulong sighed and shook his head. Your Highness, forget it. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.